commitment to a permanent solution to the conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Meanwhile, third batch of the Kenyan Defense Forces personnel have been deployed to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Congolese Army and allied forces step up its fight against the M23 rebels. The third group was commissioned by the Deputy Commander, Kenya Army Major General Peter Muteti at Embakasi Garrison, Nairobi over the weekend. The contingent shall join other counterparts who left the country 2 weeks ago under the East Africa Community Regional Force. Speaking during the event, Major General Muteti said the first batch is making big strides in bringing peace in the eastern part of DRC and implored the soldiers to be good ambassadors of the KDF, and as has been the custom in all its previous missions. Still in Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo's M23 rebel group has said it wants to talk directly with the government after Congo's president and other African leaders signed a ceasefire deal aimed at stopping attacks by the militia. Leaders of Congo, Rwanda, Burundi and Angola met during the week in Rwanda to find a solution to the conflict in eastern Congo, which has forced thousands to flee their homes. They signed an agreement saying they would enforce a ceasefire and said regional troops would intervene against the M23 if it did not withdraw from its positions. However, the M23 was not part of the discussions and found out about the statement on social media. That is according to the spokesperson. And as Azimio Umoja leader Raila Odinga has announced that he will hold public rallies to engage Kenyans on the ongoing probe of the 4 independent electoral boundaries commissioners by Parliament. The 4, Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Francis Wanderi and Justice Nyang'aya, are being grilled after a petition was filed challenging the suitability to hold office following their disowning of the August 9th election presidential results.
This regime, which came into power through the rigging of the election, is now hell-bent in trying to send home the commissioners who stood firm on the platform of the truth. And we have said that this is not going to be acceptable. People of Kenya will not accept it because it is now known worldwide that these people lost elections badly and that they told this election. But now we cannot accept that. Top of that, they will add insult to injury by sending away these other commissioners and then imposing on Kenyans a user-friendly commission to them.
Speaking in Kisumu, the former Prime Minister accused President William Ruto's Kenya administration of what he called imposing a user-friendly IEBC to Kenyans.
We will begin in Nairobi on Wednesday. We will have a meeting with the people of Nairobi at Kamkunji grounds to ask them if they accept that these commissioners should go home. We will then do the same thing in Mombasa. We'll do the same thing in Nakuru. We'll do the same thing in Kisumu. Do the same thing in Kakamega. Because an independent electoral commission is the referee. It cannot be appointed by a player. So we will not allow the Kenya Kwisha regime to impose a commission on the people of Kenya. That is not acceptable.
He announced a plan to traverse the country, starting this week to engage Kenyans on the fate of the commissioners. Now, former Marakwet West MP William Kisang floored 20 candidates in the Elgeyo Marakwet senatorial race UDA party primaries. These follows Saturday primaries, where he garnered 28,136 votes. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Good morning on Monday. And what are we looking at in terms of getting in and out of the city? Folks who are going for exams this morning should have already been up and at it. We're going to see lower levels of traffic as we're going through into this week. It's a shutdown in Nairobi, usually from the 10th of December, isn't it? We'll take a look and see what happens through the next coming days. Into the CBDs where we see most of the action today. There's nothing really coming off of Thika Superhighway, not yet at least. Likely to pick up later. A bit of action around Westlands. We'll see what happens with that as we come through towards about 6:30. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there and try to keep things moving this Monday.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
Good morning and welcome to Monday. Happy New Week. It's the 28th day of November 2022 and we're here ready to kickstart a new day with the new show. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. C.T.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine. Yes.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Not as quiet as my other weekends, but it was good. I had meetings galore. Very good indeed.
Meetings galore.
Yes. And a mingi meeting.
Kwanza, these ones that were galore.
Ndio hiyo. Mingi.
Where?
But all in all,
Were they fruitful?
wonderful. They were very fruitful. Extremely fruitful.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
The goal was achieved. Interesting in very, very many ways. Yes. Educative in very many other ways as well. Yes. So essentially, by the time the weekend came to an end, I was a very enlightened person. Infinitely more enlightened than I was before the weekend began.
Good.
Yes.
That's very good. Ndu,
Yes.
how are you?
I'm freezing.
It's cold in here, man.
Sheesh.
It's really cold in here. What do people do? And why do they do it?
I don't understand.
Nini ni mbaya na watu saa ingine? Nini usumbua watu?
Sana.
Surely. Can't you just walk into the studio and walk out without
Touching things.
touching things? This is very bad. It's very bad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah?
Okay.
Uko sawa lakini? Very good. Very good. Your weekend?
I was outside.
Your weekend was outside.
I was outside. Iputago in Igbo means we have come out. Outside.
So you are Ikitago.
I went outside. Was what?
Ikitago.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
Iputago is like you have come out.
Iputago. Oh, not
Puta is
Ikitago.
come out.
Okay.
So in the process of coming out.
So you were Tago.
So how was it?
It was very nice.
It tagged?
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah? Very good. Very good. You had an event?
Yeah.
Or you had a what?
I had an event.
Eh.
Association of Nigerian Women in Kenya.
There's such a
Came
thing.
to dress up, eat
Association
up, and
of what?
dance up. Nigerian women in Kenya.
How many are you? How many
are we?
Nigerian women are there in Kenya?
I don't know how many women, Nigerian women are in Kenya. It must be quite a number. But in the association, less than 100.
Those are the leaders.
Those are the members.
How old is the association?
1999 to now is how many years?
23 years.
23 years, yeah. The association is 23 years old in Kenya.
Okay. So what do you do? So
it's a charitable organization. So of course, coming together, supporting Kenyan community projects from schools to children's homes, women's projects, young. It's interesting. There's a couple of young boys projects as well. So it's charitable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
And how was your weekend, Eric?
Mine was good. Yeah. I did one of those things that I do.
You did a runabout, drive about.
Mm.
Oh yeah, where did you go? Tell
I
us.
ended up in Nanyuki.
So you take us with you one day.
Sindio?
You went for a what in Nanyuki?
Drive about.
And that's
Did you plan it, or you just got in the car and found yourself in Nanyuki?
Well, I had planned the night before. I was like, tomorrow,
So we go.
just go to Nanyuki. So I went to Nanyuki.
You went and came back, or did you like spend the night?
I came back yesterday. Yeah, met some people there and they said hello. We listened to Spice a lot. Say hi to CT and Ndu.
They actually said my name like that.
Yeah, well, then Ndu.
Undu.
CT and Ndu.
Okay.
So Ndu. Tukawapokea salamu kutoka
Nanyuki.
his
the place
pond
where
is
I'm
in
still trying to
Nanyuki.
go, man.
All the way. So I passed by Naromoru.
Naromoru. Did you?
Yeah. Passed by Naromoru and all the way. Now that road that Uhuru was to launch before he opened, before he left.
It's not a story. Or it is a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
It's still working. It's still under construction. The expansion into dual carriageway from Kennel all the way to Marua. That's a junction of going to Nanyuki
And Narumoru.
and Narumoru. Bado watu naendelea kujenga barabara. Yeah, not yet done. Anyway, let me tell you what we shall be discussing today, should we?
Do it.
Okay, number one, we want to look at what's happening in the country. We can see all these things. So now Raila says we are going to be engaging with the people. Kalonzo says, I'm ready to be president. I can only support Kenya Kwanza if, and all these other things. There is a push to remove the Cherera 4. There is the Hustler Fund to be launched later this week. And all those things. To look at all these things that are happening, we'll bring in political analyst and commentator Herman Manyora at 7 a.m. to have that conversation, okay? At 8 o'clock, let's talk about the Hustler Fund. It's going to be launched on the 30th. Today is the 28th. Tomorrow is the 29th. Wednesday is the 30th. Hustler Fund. Pa, pa, pa. And you know what? That whole thing of it is going to be 50 billion shillings. No,
please.
it can be as much as 500 billion shillings tukitaka.
No cap.
Ile pesa tutaamua ndio itaingia hapo. The entire budget can go there. 3 trillion shillings Hustler Fund. Nini. Now, to discuss that, we'll have an economist and financial expert, Dr. Patrick Muinde, to join us. He'll also be joined by former chairperson of the Senate Finance and Budget Committee, who has also served as a shadow finance minister in the National Assembly, Bill Okero. They will be with us at 8 a.m. At 9 o'clock, we talk about the Red Card campaign, implementing policies against gender-based violence as we continue to celebrate 16 days of activism against
Gender-based violence.
We'll be having Dr. Jibril Diallo, who is the president and CEO of African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, joining us from New York. He'll be, the conversation will be there at 9:30. Tuambie mambo ingine.
Sasa wacha nikwambie
Siri.
Excuse me. Ooh-wee.
Pole.
COVID. 36 new cases from a sample size of 450 is what we're looking at. 94 recoveries, 0 recorded deaths. Another good day for that. Most of the cases found in Nairobi and Nakuru, Meru, Kiambu, Kajiado, Kisii, Machakos, and Siaya all have 1 case each. All right. Things have erupted and they're looking elephant twice in China. And from what we're being told, now that protests have gone to the streets. Quite a lot is going on. The students from elite schools have come out into the streets and are really complaining about this lockdown. And so if you look at the summary of things, protests against strict COVID-19 measures in China spilled into a second night and spread to the biggest cities. Demonstrators gathered in the capital of Beijing and the financial hub of Shanghai, where some called for President Xi Jinping to resign. Protesters are angry at his zero COVID approach, which involves mass testing, quarantines, and snap lockdowns. The latest unrest follows a protest in the northwestern city of Urumqi, where 10 people died in a tower block fire. So that fire happened over the weekend. Protesters blame lockdown rules for hampering rescue efforts, but authorities deny this. Protests have taken place in the southwestern city of Chengdu and central cities of Xi'an and Wuhan. Wuhan is where the COVID outbreak, originated nearly 3 years ago. So things are hot, literally, with fires, and protests are saying we can't have this anymore. Of course, the latest, most serious call has been for the resignation of President Xi.
How many people are we talking about when you talk about the street protests, people demanding the... How many people? Is it sizable crowds?
Hundreds of workers is what we're talking about. Hundreds of protesters. And then we're looking at students and they say hundreds of students.
Okay.
So
See, China is democratic. Wow. Okay.
it's quite a thing here.
Okay.
So if you look at some of the pictures that are coming out there, I mean, it's quite packed in the cities that we're looking at where protests have started to come in. Shanghai, there we have it. There we have the silent protest with the candles being lit. The fire that took place. So there was a vigil where people laid them down. Barricades of police in the streets forming a cordon off of the city. Oh, there you go. That's what we're looking at. Some of the streets being closed down. So looks to be gaining some momentum.
Okay. So, 18 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show as we always do on SpiceFM KE on Facebook and YouTube. If you're online, wherever, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, please let us know where you're tuned in from. We'll do our usual shout out shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
I've seen some marriages, relationships, cohabiting struggle because there was no independence of the relationship.
It needs a certain level of intelligence. You need to reach a place where you know yourself. And again, you're not feeding off society.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune into Adults in the Room
Every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 17. We'll see highs of 24 and continuing of rain showers coming down to lows of 16 today. Let's take a look then into Nakuru. We're in Nakuru this morning. We'll see cloudy conditions, a chance of rain later going to highs of 26 and lows of 14. Into Nyeri, 16 and cloudy conditions, a chance of a shower as well, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 24 in Eldoret where it's cloudy this morning. All right, looking at other parts of the city into Kisumu. Cloudy conditions, highs of 30. We'll see highs of 29 in Kakamega. Rain showers in parts of Mombasa going to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 30 in Malindi. In Kampala, cloudy conditions through the morning, and we'll see cloudy conditions and a chance of rain in Dar es Salaam later. 16 degrees in Johannesburg, highs of 24 and looking into Lagos, cloudy conditions going to highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 30 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Soldier He says, Kisumu 102.5 is
Morning.
Yangaresi is tuned in, and Dennis Wamurkwijit is tuning in from Kapenguria. He says, good morning. Yes, indeed. Good morning. It is a good one. Welcome to Monday. Cleophas Anam, a bit down this morning. Hi. Raise me up with the ever-inspiring discussions from the Situation. You're tuning from Colwen in Nyakach sub-county. Well, okay. And we'll see what we can do about that. Good morning. Ondicho says good morning. Kiam Togo is also tuned in and says good morning. Wapi Kiti Yawageni. Don't worry. Why are you in a hurry? We have just started now.
Karibu, wewe kuja.
Abdallo Tiende, we see you. Good morning to you. Paul Ntaia says good morning. He's tuning from Narok East. And John Amasongole says good morning. Tobias Nyongesa is tuning this morning. And Jose Moshiri says good morning. Dennis, we see you. Yes, we do. Innocent Chahazi is tuning from Kisi. And Richie Gitonka is asking, how has the weekend been? It has been all right. Hello, guys. Tuning from Palms Resort in Nyeri, Mombasa. That's where James Kimanzi is. And Wycliffe. Nakafiti. Nipe namba ya ndu. Collins Kiptai
tutakupea bwana. Wewe ongea poa.
Collins Kipsat says good morning. Alan's also tuning from Eldoret. Good morning, MC and Mushi. Dennis is also tuned in. Quite a number of you online this morning. Karibuni sana. And thank you for joining us.
Indeed. City, we've moved away from Mauritania.
We have moved away.
We went to Western Sahara. Have we moved away from there as well?
Yes, we have. We are now in a country called Guinea.
Guinea.
Guinea. Sasa, Guinea, it is not Guinea-Bissau.
And it's not Equatorial Guinea.
It is not Equatorial Guinea. It is not Papua New Guinea. It is just
Guinea.
For whom the capital is Conakry.
Foul.
Is it now?
Is it not?
It is.
The capital of Guinea is Conakry.
Conakry.
Yes. Capital. Imeanza na leo ni Monday. Capital of Guinea-Bissau is Bissau.
Yes.
Capital of Equatorial Guinea is Malabo.
Yes.
And capital of Papua New Guinea, where I told you I have relatives, is Port Moresby. Sawa.
Sawa.
The interesting about these Guineas is this. I'm referring to the country, not the fowl, not the bird. Is that they are all next to a body of water. All. All
they
of
are
them.
all coastal countries.
They are all coastal countries. Now, Guinea-Bissau is just up on top of where?
Of the ocean.
Yes. Exactly on the right side of the ocean, but on top of Guinea. They're just neighbors next door. Very, very interesting place. Right, Guinea got its independence from France in 1958. 58 was an auspicious year because I was born in 1958.
Wewe na Guinea.
So mimi na Guinea Rika. But I was born before Guinea. Guinea got independence on the 2nd of October. Me, I was born on... I'm not telling you people. So I was about to make that mistake. I'm not telling you.
March.
Yes, it is some of the ides of that thing. Okay? Now, the country that neighbors are Sierra Leone, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, Cote d'Ivoire, and Liberia. It's interesting.
It has so many neighbors.
It has very many neighbors. The biggest one is Mali. Mali is a huge chunk of land. Massive.
Plus an ocean.
Exactly. Now, ocean is bigger than Mali. President is a very interesting person. I'm saying interesting because the thing about this country is that eco-military junta. For the longest time I knew it was junta. Then I was told it is junta. Okay? And there is a CNRD body. That must be the Commission for Revolutionary something or the other. Okay? And it's called Mamadou Doumbouya. Right. Now the proverb. May I read it?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you. The man on his feet comes of the share of the man sitting down. No, let me read it again. Their grammar went south. The man on his feet, yes, comes for the share of the man sitting down. Yes.
The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Yes.
Okay.
Hiyo ni proverb.
Kaa chini itakuliwa.
Itakuliwa na yule anayesimama.
Yes. All right. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Let's talk about the Standard Insider, okay? So the Standard Insider, you know the way you go onto a website or a platform and you just get all the news. Sometimes this is not the kind of interest. With the Standard Insider, you actually get only information that interests you, curated to you. Hiyo ndio inaenda namna hiyo. If you like more business, you get more business. If you like more sport, you get more sport. If you like more politics, you get more politics. If it's about agriculture and farming, you get more agriculture and farming. Text, photos, videos, graphics, anything.
Everything.
Just served to you as it's uploaded, okay? And that's why it's Standard Insider is very, very important. Now, Bobea Nahu Mutindo was Standard Insider, 199 bob a month, and you save 100 shillings. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Just log in there and sign up for the Standard Insider. What's on the front pages?
All right, on the front page of the Standard this morning, we're looking at exams like no other. 3 exams start today. For the next 1 month, the KCSE, we'll start with practicals today, and they get into that. We also have the KCPE, which goes in today. And then we have the grade 6 assessment, which also begins today. Boom, boom, boom.
Even KCSE begins today. Thought it was a bit later.
Well, according to the schedule, it's reading 28th of November.
What?
And they're quite I know, and this is the thing.
It's the practicals, probably.
The practicals are starting today. All right, so we go into the written exams about 3 weeks from now. Okay, so practicals start today for KCSE, which is, I guess, one of the reasons why they don't really say it as part of the exam. But okay, there are almost 3.5 million candidates, making it the biggest lot of recent times, and it will be the first time national exams are administered to grade 6 learners, the pioneer class of CBC. 3,416,048 is the total number. There's a total number of 2.5 million primary school candidates, and we'll go into those numbers later, but that's what splashed on the front page. IEBC 4, Ryla calls for return of People's Assembly. And there's a special report here, of course, going in and talking about the 16 days of activism, about why home is most unsafe for women. There's also a post story there, shame as rugby players turn beggars. So we'll look into that story later as well. On the front page of The Nation, fresh face-off revealed as Emil Umoja won Kenya's 3-pronged approach to defend itself and deal with renegades as it counters President William Ruto's charm offensive in coalition strongholds. In an interview, Deputy Secretary General and National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi explains Azimio's plans inside and outside the House to maintain unity. Of course, there's more on the exams with grade 6 and class 8 starting today in about 2 hours. And maize imports is another story. Farmers' protests fall on deaf ears. So protest as much as you like. The imports are making their way into the country. It's all systems go for the biggest exams. That's also on the back page of The Nation. Today, highest number of candidates examined at a go.
Wow. City?
Yes.
Do you have those things?
I do have those things. Believe it or not. I have them. Can I tell you what is on them? Right. The Sita newspaper. Fireworks as Raila calls for anti-Ruto meetings. Okay. Azimio chief sharply differs his president on petition to move IEC bosses. Headline, pop. Okay. Yes. Then there's something called intellectual property. Graffiti artist sues Karua for 1.2 million over campaign ads. That's on page 9 of this particular newspaper. Then, Business Daily, as in daily business.
Got it.
Only 9%, believe it or not, of Kenyans have permanent full-time jobs. Just in case you didn't know.
Full-time is pensionable.
Employees prefer hiring temporary casual workers. 25.2% of adults depend on others for survival.
A quarter of the country of adults in the country depend on others.
Yes, to survive.
Wow.
Yep. This was a survey conducted by the CBK. I'll read and talk about it later. Yeah. Then I have the East African. Right. Thank you so much. Ruto looks west, east, and west again for support. Let me repeat that.
West, east, and then west.
Yes, Ruto looks west, east, and west again for support. He has vowed to get Kenya out of debt, but caught between strangling external debt and drought, the president turns to South Korea for $1 billion won.
Oh, okay,
$1 billion.
I thought we were making a list.
No. The one is the $1 billion.
I got it. All right.
1 billion.
Yes.
All right, it's 6:30. Let's take this quick break. Let's see how the roads are looking like. We'll be looking at other newspaper headlines shortly. Cindio. It is very, very shortly. Also, as we're talking about, schools are closing, yes. Exams are beginning, yes. Don't forget, schools will reopen in just a few weeks' time. And it will be back to school. And you'll be needing school fees. Do you want to win school fees?
Me? Yes.
You want to win school fees?
I do.
Up to 45,000 shillings worth of school fees. Eh?
If I know what, there must be a something.
All you need to do is hebu jitokeze jionyeshe simama mbele ya watu. Go and buy kiwi. That's it. Just buy kiwi and you stand a chance of winning what?
45,000 shillings.
And
School fees.
kiwi is still a shoe polish, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not the bird or the fruit.
It's not the fruit.
not
It's
the
the
bird?
kiwi shoe polish.
Yes.
Specifically by the black kiwi shoe polish. We'll tell you more about it. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I know the sun is out in Nairobi at least. As you tembea, be careful. Manchester United are trying to sign anyone. Watch out where your children are. Please hide yourselves.
Sugar and spice.
I reached a point where suicide things were just going south completely. Something stopped me. Musema, it's God now. My mom's prayers.
Join me, Yolanda Mulo, and DJ Absolute every single weekday from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock. Sugar and Spice, for sugar, spice, and everything so nice.
On 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, a few minutes after 6:30, again, we're going to see that traffic levels are dwindling as we're going towards the middle of December. Into the CBDs where we're seeing most of it this morning. Okay, let's look outside of Nairobi, where unfortunately there was a terrible accident where a bus burst into flames, and wonder what happened. So this was on the way from the Tsavo National Park along the Nairobi-Mombasa Road. There was unfortunately burst into flames, and that had to stop for some time. All right, coming into the city from Westlands, it's free, as in there, I'm seeing a picture and there are 2 vehicles. 2, literally. So there's not much in terms of traffic, not at this hour. The roads are slippery, folks. So as folks are getting out, please be extremely careful as we're traversing. We'll probably see more action on the roads as we're going out towards 7. So we'll keep an eye on things. Help us out here. Help us know what's going on where you are. And talk to us on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, it's 26 minutes to 7. So some traffic update. Last night, I got a text from a friend of mine called Austin. Osto was telling me that he was leaving Kisumu, Nairobi. He was on the Kisumu, Nairobi train. Very interesting experience. At 6:12, he said, I've just arrived. It's quite a nostalgic ride. Very well run and managed. No regrets at all. Kisumu, Nairobi train.
What time did he leave Nairobi?
He has just arrived Nairobi.
A ticket?
Kisumu, Nairobi train. As in,
No, sorry.
left
What time
Kisumu.
did he leave Kisumu? What time did he leave Kisumu?
At time.
What time did he leave Kisumu to arrive this morning at 6:12?
I've asked him, what time did you depart? What time did you arrive? Okay. He's typing. I'll tell you when he types.
So, okay.
He says it's quite, he has enjoyed the experience.
Okay.
Aboard the train. And of course the nostalgia that also CT talks about all the time. Yeah. Gari moshi natoka Kisumu kuja Nairobi. Haya. You tell us that story.
Me? Schools.
No, is it schools?
Which one do you want to hear?
You tell us the one you want to tell us.
Okay, let me tell you about schools.
Okay.
Because we're at that time, So usually we'd say 1 million students are sitting an exam. Now we're upwards of 3.5 million students sitting the exams over the next 1 month. Rather, just under 3.5 million. The countdown to the end of 844 as 3 groups sit national exams. So we're going to have 1 more year of KCPE. The final KCPE takes place next year. So this is the penultimate one. More than 3.4 million candidates will from today sit 3 separate national exams that will mark the start of a major transition from the cutthroat tests that have been the hallmark of an 844 education system. The second to last cohort of 844 will exit primary education as the pioneer group of CBC grade 6 sit their first national examination under the 26333 education system. Even though transitions for the grade 6 learners is still not clear, what is true is that the learners will have concluded the first phase of their primary education under the proposed education reforms. Next year, the last 844 candidates will sit Standard 8 and Form 4 national examinations, bringing to an end an education system that has been billed as promoting rote learning and supporting high-stakes national tests. Today, some 188 candidates will sit the KCPE exam, while 884,263 will write the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exam. Another group of 1,287,597 will sit the inaugural Kenya Primary School Education Assessment. Those are the KPSEA exams. Even though the triple national tests will be administered concurrently, the burden on candidates under the 2 assessment regimes will be different. While the KCPE and KCSE candidates will be working hard to achieve 100% marks, the KPSEA group will only be striving to score a maximum of 40 marks. These grade 6 learners sat the teacher administrated assessments in grade 4, 5 and 6 with a cumulative score of 60%. So remember what we had said when we were looking at this new system, because you're not going to have one big exam. You'll have one exam every year, and that contributes to your total score. So now, and that's in the system. So now we're in primary school. They've had the grade 4, the grade 5, and they've had a grade 6 assessment, totaling to 60%.
Right.
This now final assessment for
will
grade
account
6
for 40%.
will account for 40. So they're going to mash everything together.
The way they've written that statement is kind of misleading.
It is. That's why I had to explain it again.
So they'll only be seeking to score a maximum of 40.
So they're basically saying in this exam, while KCSE and KCPE are sitting for 100 marks, these guys are only sitting for 40.
But if you get 28 out of 100, you're fine.
Without taking into consideration.
If you get 40% in this exam, in whatever, if you're sitting a math exam and you get 40%, you have actually passed.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they're comparing the two, and it shouldn't be that way because it's a totally different system.
Okay.
All right. So that's what's happening today. Let's look at some of these numbers from my favorite people, KNEC. KCPE and KNEC allowances, centre managers will get 2,000 shillings, supervisors earn to 2,400, invigilators will get 1,600. Security officers will earn 1050 and drivers will get 1040. Supervisors in Nairobi and Mombasa, 695 per day, 630 for supervisors from other regions, 580 per day for invigilators in Nairobi and Mombasa, 460 for invigilators from other regions. Secondary school principals will get 500 per day. What do they do on exam day, CT? Secondary school principals?
You run the school.
Even on exam day, so they're getting an allowance for just doing what they should be doing anyway.
Listen,
I'm just asking.
The principal goes to the exam center. The principal is in charge. They're the ones who will go to the exam center, that place where there's a need, pick up the papers, bring to the school,
police officer,
and then bring them back,
and make sure that the exam has been sat and the exam has left,
and they sign off on it
and gone back to the center.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the man is running. The man and woman are running the school.
Okay. So security officers get 420 a day and drivers get 405 shillings a day. December 2022 exams, KCPE dates from today until the 30th, 1,244,188 candidates will sit the KPSEA exams, which take place again from today until Wednesday, 1,287,597. And then looking at the written exams taking place for KCSE from the 2nd of December. We know practicals take place today, 884,263.
All right.
All systems go.
All the best to all the candidates. And if you're listening to us and you have a candidate, all the best to you as well. Please, let the child be.
Yeah, relax.
Pressure. Just relax. Okay? They have worked hard enough and they know what they need to do. Let them do it, and all the best to them. Higher. Prime Cabinet Secretary. Do you know the name of that person?
Yes.
What's his name?
Musala Mudavadi.
What does he do?
Weekly.
He's the prime secretary.
You know, when you talk about the president, you know the president what he's been doing. He's been talking, he's been in meetings, he's gone to very many. He's gone Egypt, South Korea, DRC, blah, blah, blah. You know?
Yeah.
Rigathi Gachagua, his deputy, every weekend he's busy. Every day he's busy. If he's not mobilizing funds to feed the people who are hungry, he is talking about Raila Wemze. He is dealing with it. He is talking to his tailor. All those things he's doing, Rigathi Gachagua has been busy coordinating and running government. Moses Kuria talking about maize importation, talking about EAPCC land, talking about Mitumba. He's been busy, right? So Ipan Tuya has gone to Egypt, COP27. She's the Minister for
Even
Environment. Ababu Namwamba is dealing with issues. He's going to have a press conference today about rugby. Busy.
Telling you.
Right? Bore has been busy. Her name is Bore. She's been busy dealing with pilot strike, ensuring that they're having conversations with KQ. Busy. Transport guy, what's his name? Kipchumba Murkomen. Busy.
Mombasa
He has
Road.
released the thing. SGR contract. Busy. All these ministers are busy.
Ministry of Health,
has
Ebola
gone
is
to
just here at the
KEMSA.
door.
He's dealing with KEMSA. COVID. What does Musalia Mudavadi do?
He went to Lamu.
To do what?
There's a Lamu festival.
What does he?
What?
That's true. Musalia
What is
Mudavadi was in Lamu over the weekend.
Okay.
And he was attending the 20th annual Lamu Cultural Festival on Saturday. He says importation of maize should be shelved until the Ministry of Agriculture takes stock of the grain harvest in the country to establish if there will be a deficit. Mudavadi maintained. He says, this importation of maize, it should be shelved. This information should be coming from the Ministry of Agriculture to establish if there will be a deficit. Mudavadi maintained that the order to import maize should have originated from the Ministry of Agriculture and not the Trade, Investment and Industry docket. The issue of importation of maize should be guided by a survey by the Ministry of Agriculture to find out if there is a deficit of the grains. That is a policy that must be well canvassed. It's the Agriculture docket that will issue an importation order after looking at the food situation in the country. This is not Raila Odinga who's talking. It is the chief cabinet secretary in this government who is saying it should be coming from the ministry. He doesn't seem to be saying there's a shortage or no shortage. He also doesn't know. So the Minister for Agriculture, she's the one who should tell the prime cabinet secretary whether there's a shortage.
There's an interesting thing he has said there. The WHO should take stock of the maize in the country after the current harvest?
She's saying the Ministry of Agriculture will issue an importation order after looking at the food situation in the country. They will take stock to find out if there's a deficit of the grains. Okay? And only then shall the importation order then be issued after we know how much is coming.
So can I ask a question?
Ask.
Is he the principal of the secretaries, of the cabinet secretary?
Well, that's what it appeared to be.
So if he says something like now, they'll need to do what he says, Abi?
Well...
See, he has
because
said,
he seems to be singing a very interesting song. He seems to be saying the absolute opposite of what the other people in his government are saying.
No, he seems to be saying something. He seems not to be aware
of what's going on. Where does he live?
He seems to be speaking like an opposition leader.
That's what I'm telling you. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because he's saying there's harvest going on. It would appear as though he's saying we should be looking at what's in the country first. Let's mop up what is available. Then before we start talking about import. Abi, did I hear you wrong? That's what he said.
Yes.
There should have been no announcement of importation of maize from the Trade Ministry's office.
Yes.
It should have been from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
And so even that announcement should not have come before stock taking of the available maize in the country was done and announced.
That's right.
That's what he has said, Abi.
That's what he has said.
So that's why I'm asking you, is he the principal of the cabinet secretary?
There's an answer to that on page 4, the Standard, and it's in a statement. Ruto says political noise is a sign of democracy.
All this is kelele.
What?
Kelele mingi. Let me tell you the roles of
Kelele
the
mingi
prime
na kidogo.
cabinet secretary.
Okay, please.
Just so that you're sure.
Yeah.
There are 5, according to Executive Order number 1 of 2022 by President William Ruto.
Yeah.
Number 1, Musalia Mudavadi should assist the president and the deputy in the coordination and supervision of government ministries and state departments. Number 2, in liaison with the ministry responsible for interior national administration, Musalia should oversee the implementation of our national government policies, programs and projects. Number 3, Musalia should chair and coordinate national government legislative agenda across all ministries and state departments in consultation with and for transmission to the coalition leaders in parliament. Number 4, Musalia Mudavadi is the chair of the principal secretaries committees and supervises the technical monitoring and evaluation of government policies, programs and projects. And number 5, he doesn't have many things to do. The 5th thing,
5 things.
Musalia Mudavadi should perform any other function as may be assigned by the president. Maybe that's what he was doing in Lamu.
Any other duties?
No, but even the supervision and thing, there's there are clear hints
of what they would
there are
like
clear suggestions of what he should do. So the clarity which actually lacks the clarity that you actually need is useful, because you cannot then argue that what he's doing is outside
his scope.
Yes, it's within the scope. He could be supervising. He could be coordinating.
By speaking like this?
Yes, because it's ministries. He's coordinating. Look, this thing should not be Ministry of Trade.
That's
it should be Ministry of Agriculture.
That's understood.
That is coordinating.
That's coordinating.
Yeah.
Yes. By
Aligning
his statement, the man is basically saying, what you people have been doing for the last 2 weeks is a complete hogwash. What we are basically telling you here is that you have made a statement that you should not have been making, number 1.
It's not your place to make it.
Number 2, how can you make a statement when 1, 2, 3 has not been done? So stop it. If that's the coordination, then what? Jolly good. He might as well continue.
But there's a little thing here. There's a little thing here that's happening. A little thing here. Okay? There's a little thing which is in the offing. It seems like we are in a period of many alignments and realigning with a view of changing the political landscape. I will explain. There is a big talk and a big push for Luhya unity.
Yes.
Okay? Yes. A good portion of the Luhya unity vote block is in the grain growing part of this country. Okay? So if you were championing the unity of a community and an opportunity like this presented itself, because the farmer doesn't just represent an individual and the land that they farm. It's communities, it is their welfare, it is their existence.
Yes.
So an opportunity like this cannot be missed. You must put your right foot where it is, and you must give yourself that position where you're championing for their cause. But the politics aside, in all honesty, the reason why the National Cereals and Produce Board exists is to protect the farmer, in all honesty.
Indeed.
And protect the farmer, you protect the country, whether it's a strategic reserves or it's just in storage. If we were to take what the Senator for Nandi, Mheshimiwa Cherargei mentioned, our stores are empty. Why are they empty and yet farmers have maize? There seems to be a bit of a standoff between the National Cereals and Produce Board and the farmers. Now, to ask the farmers to sell maize directly to the miller, in cryptic terms, it's like asking the sheep to have a wolf look into their interests. You see? That is a game that has, should we say, been refereed well in the past by the National Cereals and Produce Board. Now, the issue of keeping maize, it is normal practice, if you're wise, to find a way of ensuring that your maize product can stay for a while until prices stabilize. Look, there's nothing that we're discussing here that is actually unusual. What is unusual is the insistence that the farmer should sell directly to who? The miller. Now, if there's a price that has been agreed upon, by all means sell. But from what we read, the price has not been agreed upon.
It has not been agreed upon.
Yes.
So the two things here that Musalia Mudavadi is speaking in, one is that he's speaking practically, and then he's also speaking politically. You can't run away from that.
No, he has to.
Yeah.
He's not speaking practically.
Speaking politically.
Practical should be, this conversation should have happened. He's the coordinator of the CSs. If indeed this word should have come from the Agriculture Ministry, then he should have made sure that Mithika Linturi is speaking about maize. Mithika Linturi has been quiet, while the PM, Prime Minister, Secretary, whatever, is also quiet and hosting Luhya breakfast.
Talking about this. Did you say what? National Luhya breakfast.
Yeah. But there was such a gathering.
He should have ensured that Medical Inturi is speaking. And coming to say, okay, so this is the situation. Or what he should have said in Lamu is, okay, so this is what is happening behind the scenes. You guys may not know, but I'm the one who's coordinating, I'm the one who's running the ship. So let me tell you what's happening. What's happening is that Medical Inturi is quiet because he's doing an audit of the maize that we have in the country. And Moses Kuria, those 72 hours, forget about it. This is what's going to happen. But not saying should be.
It does leave some egg on his face kind of situation, doesn't it? When he has spoken in this manner.
He sounds like the man who is not in parliament, but in opposition.
Yeah. Indeed.
Maybe he's in opposition to what Moses Kuria is saying.
At all. He's opposition now. All now opposition. Or maybe he never actually took off the coat. But hey, speculation, right, for a Monday morning.
Maybe he's not in government.
That's all. That's what I'm saying.
Higher.
Only 9% of Kenyans have permanent jobs. Full-time jobs.
Uh-huh.
After the permanent, there's like a comma.
Okay.
Hence the pause.
Permanent, full-time.
Yes.
Okay.
That comma was my pause was the dramatic pause. Now I proceed.
Okay.
And I will read. Less than 10% of Kenyan adults have permanent full-time jobs, underscoring the high poverty and dependency levels in an economy where the government is struggling to tackle an acute unemployment problem. The average share of workers in permanent full-time jobs stood at 9% last year, says a survey part conducted by the Central Bank of Kenya, which lists Garissa, Wajir, Turkana and Kwale as counties with the smallest portion of quality employment. I'll repeat. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Garissa, Wajir, Turkana and Kwale are counties with the smallest proportion of quality employment. They have employment, but it's not quality.
Okay.
They lead. Nairobi was ranked top on the share of permanent jobs. It is a capital city, the largest population, reflecting on the capital city's economic dominance over the other 46 devolved units created in 2013. And I turn the page. In 1913, to address the wealth imbalance followed by Taita Taveta and Kiambu. Taita Taveta follows Nairobi, Kiambu follows Taita Taveta. Okay? The city has the highest share of permanent full-time employment, with 25% of the adults having this sort of job. I'm reading what is written.
Okay.
Me, I want to understand something, City.
Please.
When you say permanent and full-time, what exactly do we mean?
Yeah.
What is that? What is a permanent job?
A permanent job, by definition, is also a pensionable job.
Okay.
The full-time is permanent and pensionable.
Uh-huh.
Now, a contract job will either offer you gratuity or it will offer you whatever it is that you've agreed upon. Okay? But it is specific. A 1-year contract, 2-year, 3-year, whatever the term is.
Okay.
Now, those are not considered permanent.
Okay.
Now, there has been a move towards the contractual sort of work, and even within government that was known to be the one entity that employed people on those permanent and pensionable terms is also employing many people on a contract basis.
Full of contracts in government,
they are.
Public service.
They are, and we see it. Okay. Now, there is a timetable that they established here, and they say employment rates in the top 5 and bottom 5 counties. Okay. And this is the county and the employment rate. That is the percentage of people who are employed in the category I've just mentioned. Nairobi City, 25.1%. Taita Taveta, 18.9%. Kiambu, 18.7%. Bungoma, 16.4%. Trans Nzoia, 14.5%. Now, the bottom, okay? The bottom 5. Kwale, 3.6%. Elgeyo Marakwet, 3.6%. Turkana, 3.4%. Wajir, 3.3%. Garissa, 2.2%. So, picture a county where only 2.2% of the people there
are permanent.
Yes, but there's something
everybody else is on contract.
Yes, in terms of employment. But then, this particular article doesn't take into account, apart from just mentioning the household survey of 2022 that shows 25% were casually employed, blah, 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 etc. It doesn't talk about self-employment. It doesn't talk about the business nature of some of these counties, because someone may not be permanently employed within the so-called formal sector that we use as a measure, but it does not mean that they're not employed. This is what I'm trying to say. Because somebody may be a farmer, someone may be a trader, somebody may own a shop, whatever it is that they do, but they are gainfully engaged somewhere. That doesn't seem to have been covered in this particular article.
When you talk about permanent, then it's a fixed salary that comes regularly with some clear regularity.
Yes.
And then there's also the pension benefit as well.
And there's a guarantee over a period of time, 10, 20, essentially a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Another story. Shall I tell you this one before?
Please do.
Huh? There's a story on page 3 of the Standard today that's a bit disturbing. The administration at Ngara Girls' School in Nairobi has come out to clarify the circumstances surrounding the death of a student in the school last week. It is claimed the Form 1 learner, identified as Laureen, died by suicide following issues back home. The girl succumbed to injuries after allegedly jumping from the first floor of her dormitory on November 15th. She died at the Aga Khan hospital where she had been rushed. According to the school's principal, Dr. Beatrice Ndiga, the learner left 2 notes explaining the motive behind her decision to take her life. In a letter dated November 17th, Dr. Ndiga said the deceased had sought advice from her colleagues on ways of how she could end her life. In 2 suicide notes found in her belongings, the girl allegedly said she was not willing to go back home due to differences between her parents. 2 notes were found in the student's bag, stating that without the father staying with them, she had no desire to leave. She had inquired from a student earlier how one can take their lives if they wanted to die. In the second note addressed to her mother, the girl indicated that she was upset about the treatment she received after her parents had fought. Another note was found in the student's pillow, written to the mother, stating how hurt she was when the mother chased her away when she went to console her after a fight with the father. This is a Form 1 girl, and because of what had happened at home, apparently there was a scuffle between the father and mother. She basically just felt distraught and decided, no, I can't live with this. She jumped out of her dormitory on the first floor, was rushed to hospital, died.
It was her intent to end her life.
That was just, it is such a sad thing. And the note to her mother is, the mother and father had fought. So she went to console the mother. And the mother, according to the girl, the mother chased her away. Like, just go away. And she felt, I'm coming to show you support. I'm coming to be with you because of this. And you are mad. And then the father has moved out of the house. And now she's wondering, so if my family is breaking up, what's the point?
Why am I here?
Yeah. Things that happen and people just don't consider what else is happening to others around, right? Hi, keep it here for more conversations coming up in next hour. Plus, we'll tell you how you can win this school fees and airtime and data from purchasing a Kiwi black shoe polish from any shop. And then what you can do is just dialing a certain number, sending a certain number, and you stand a chance of winning. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Standard 8 and Grade 6 candidates will in the next 1 hour be sitting the KCPE and KPSEA exams across the country. More than 2.5 million candidates will take the exams, which will end on Wednesday. 1,244,188 KCPE candidates, while 1,287,597 and Grade 6 candidates who will take their first national exams under the CBC curriculum before joining junior secondary school next year. According to NEC, KCPE candidates will take mathematics and English languages exams at exactly 8 a.m. before science and Kiswahili on Tuesday, and then finish on Wednesday with social studies and religious education. Those sitting for KPSEA will start with mathematics and then English. Already, officers in charge of exams, including NEC and security officers, were informed of various centres they are expected to manage, while the candidates themselves were making final preparations on Friday last week.
No challenges observed. We look forward to having a very great session with them.
Invigilators walikuja, supervisor akahakikisha majina yote ya watoto iko na hatuna shida yoyote. Sasa tunangojea tu mtihani.
And they are really yearning for that exam. Actually, none of them has shown any sign of fear.
They've taught us many and we have learned, like now we're waiting for KCP, we're going to pass, we're going to be number one.
Teachers have revised thoroughly and we cannot say that they have not done their part. It is now our turn to do our part.
Areas affected by insecurity, a total of 5 school candidates have been merged together after their schools were closed. This comes out of the Form 4 national examination enters its second week after starting on November 18th. The examination is expected to end on December 23rd. These exams are the first task for the new Education CS Ezekiel Muchongu to see if he will manage fraud that has been reported frequently and thus protect the integrity of the examination system.
Indeed, we are having 3 exams being done concurrently from 28th of this month up to 30th, and of course the Form 4 exam will be able to continue until the 23rd of December. So it's another history in the making, but all arrangements are well. We have been able to deploy enough personnel.
Already some containers that were hosting the exams have already been opened as distribution of the same continue. We are following up on that and will be bringing you the very latest in our subsequent news bulletins. Now, President William Ruto says his government is focused on service delivery and will not be distracted by those in the opposition. Speaking during a church service in Karen, President Ruto stated that the Kenya Kwanza administration is keen on fulfilling its pre-election pledges to Kenyans. The head of state intimated that his government would not lock out the opposition from state affairs but would allow them to perform their oversight role. He urged all government officials to remain focused towards ensuring efficient service delivery to the people of Kenya. And President of Burundi, Evariste Ndayishimiye, is in the country to launch the third inter-Congolese dialogue that will begin in Nairobi today in the afternoon. President William Ruto hosted President Ndayishimiye, who is also the current chairperson of the East Africa Community Heads of State Summit, later at State House, Nairobi, where he received an update from Burundi President on the peace process in DRC ahead of the third inter-Congolese consultations. Ruto reiterated Kenya's commitment to a permanent solution to the conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And the third batch of the Kenya Defense Forces personnel have been deployed to the Democratic Republic of Congo as the Congolese Army and Allied Forces step up its fight against the M23 rebels. The third group was commissioned by the Deputy Commander, Kenya Army Major General Peter Muteti at Embakasi Garrison, Nairobi. Over the weekend, the contingent shall join their counterparts who left the country 2 weeks ago under the East African Community Regional Force. And still in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo's M23 rebel group said it wants to talk directly with the government after Congo's president and other African leaders signed a ceasefire deal aimed at stopping attacks by the militia. Leaders of Congo, Rwanda, Burundi and Angola met in Luanda to find a solution to the conflict in eastern Congo, which has forced thousands to flee their homes. They signed an agreement saying they would enforce a ceasefire and said regional troops would intervene against the M23 if it did not withdraw from its positions. This is Newswire. Dennis Asata, good morning.
The Spice Newswire is brought to you by Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. Go ahead and get yours today. It's your time.
It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock and we're seeing a build-up of traffic in different parts of the city. Just past Maradima, over that drift as you're getting towards General Motors, then it's going to settle down a little bit. But then as you get towards the Greater Mombasa Road, it's going to pick up as you get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Out through then to the Haile Selassie roundabout. There's some traffic that's building up there. Let's look at North Airport Road. Heading out towards the Eastern Bypass, there is some traffic. We're going to see that build-up continuing as you head out towards the Eastern Bypass. Lunga Lunga is very busy, as is Jogo Road. And then getting into the CBD, coming off a thicker superhighway has already started. You guys didn't even waste time. It's bumper to bumper and really heavy traffic as you're getting past that Pangani underpass. And Kiambu Road is not being left out this morning. Limuru Road yet to catch up and still being able to move freely there without too much of an issue. But we're seeing the build-up of James Gishuru and it's likely to spill over to Wayaki Way later. Let's keep an eye on things, folks, and see what happens later on in about half hour. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's try and keep things moving. Talk to us there.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
good morning,
the only way to start
Kenya's biggest conversation, 28th day of November 2022, 29, 30th, Hustler Fund is launched. Maisha naendelea, things like that.
And life is good, sweet.
And life is sweet.
It's about to be sweet.
Kabisa, si ndio? You have your Samsung Galaxy.
Which one?
Z Flip 4.
Thank you very much. Don't just call it anyhow.
But take it.
To give it.
Take a photo of Herman Manyora here.
Who is not feeling that this life is about to become sweet. You didn't know? Hustler Fund is being launched in 2 days.
Oh.
Life is sweet, and we're going to be taking pictures of this life.
One?
You want a whole fund for yourself?
Yeah. No, it's all about a complimentary phone.
Yeah. Oh, phone?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was taking pictures of you as you
You take a photo of him as City gives us the day's proverb from Guinea.
Yes, not Papua New Guinea.
Not Guinea-Bissau.
Not Equatorial Guinea. Just Guinea.
Okay.
All right. The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Yes, now you may wonder why it is that has been said with such speed. It is courtesy of the clarity that the Samsung Galaxy
Tab S8
Ultra offers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. Clarity enables you to speak with speed.
Yeah.
It does. And to read with even more speed. That's a general idea.
Kabisa. Ndu, you've taken the photo?
I did.
Yeah? I will tell Manyora about that camera.
Real life in a snap. I'm telling you.
But I have to experience it.
You really do.
Tell
and
them,
you know.
Show him the photo. Let him look at the details.
I need one Samsung. I hear it's the best phone these days.
You know how how you say in Kiswahili, Nigeria, Kenyans say it removes you.
It removes inakutoa kabisa.
Yeah, that's what it does. And while you're using this phone, you can do it hands-free. Take videos while you're doing other things, having your meetings, and it can be taken. You don't even have to hold it. Just
That's
put
Nigerian
it there, and it'll be.
witchcraft.
Samsung had a conversation with the village uncles,
and they decided this is it.
This is what we need to do.
Herman, good morning.
Morning to you, Eric.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too.
You're well?
Oh, well, thank God for that.
That's very good. That's very good. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation once again. We want to look at...
I like that once again.
Yes. It's always good to have you here.
Thank you.
That proverb, the one who is... Say again.
The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Huh. It's wonderful, eh?
What's the interpretation of that?
Well, those who want will come for for things that others have. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you have it, somebody else is coming for it too.
One who's on his feet is basically walking.
He's quick.
That's him.
Quicker.
They're up and about.
They're up and about. Yeah.
As you are seated.
As you're just sitting there, meregarega.
You're relaxed.
Kau meregarega.
Itaenda.
Itaenda.
Kama ni Samsung itakuwa imeenda.
Imeenda. Imeenda. Herman,
yes.
A lot of things have happened. So, President William Ruto come into office. Government has taken shape. Principal cabinet secretaries are in office. A nomination for principal secretaries has hit a snag. If you look at the counties, governors are in office. Many of them do not have their CECMs in office because hit a snag as well. Many issues here and there. We're counting down to 2 days of the launch of the Hustler Fund. We have conversations about the IEBC Cherera 4. There's petitions that have been taken to the National Assembly. That has started. The clerk of the National Assembly has already sent out invitations. Please let us hear your thoughts, because the majority wants to amend the IEBC Act to look at who forms the appointment team for the IEBC Commission. Very many things are happening, Herman.
Yes.
Which one is top of your mind?
This movement.
Movement.
I was once sick. Acute pancreatitis, and nothing moves in the abdomen. So this is Dr. Susan, Dr. Aliboy, Kisumu, they were knocking on my tummy. Now this here is a dead tummy. So if things are moving, then it moves the country as well. Yeah, we are not stagnant. The country, things are happening.
There's bowel movement.
Yes, bowel movement. The country is moving.
The bowels of the country
are moving.
Yes. Yeah, the country is moving, which is good.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's start with this current one, the one that's hot. All right?
Yes.
In fact, the Standard this morning says, same cabinet, different maize scripts. Cabinet Secretary for Trade Investment says, I'm going to be signing instruments for the importation of maize into the country to bridge the shortfall. MPs representing farmers say, what shortfall? In fact, we're even about to harvest.
Yes.
What do you mean there's a shortfall? A shortfall where?
Yes.
Delay this importation until we see something happening.
Yes, yes.
The Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, goes to Lamu. He says, actually, the issue of maize should have started with Medekali Nturi, the CS for Agriculture.
Not
Moses Kuria.
Yes.
At the same time, Moses Kuria is saying, by the way, you farmers, if you have maize, I'm giving you 72 hours, sell that maize. If you don't, I'm opening importation.
Yes.
What's your view on this? What's happening in this government?
I think you could conclude by saying just suckers. But you could also say the fellows in government are still learning the ropes. It looks like they were not prepared to govern. But that's normal. When you start something, you have to learn it. But if you are to address it in a much more serious way, then you'll be sorry for this country. Look at people speaking at cross purpose at that high level. Look at someone saying he's giving farmers 72 hours. Where are they going to sell the maize? Some of the maize is still in the shamba and he knows it. How do you sell that which is still being harvested, for example? Secondly, we know it has happened before, specifically in 2014. Is it 20? I think 2014 or something like that. Sometimes back. When people are saying maize is going to be imported, but the following day it was being offloaded. So there are stories that maize is already there. So, and that tells you why it is a trade minister instead of the agriculture minister who will have the pulse of the country in terms of maize stock and what have you. That could be agriculture ministry, okay? But if it's a question of trade, you see, these are most likely buccaneers. Yeah, people out to make some little money, which is normal. This Kenya, people go for money. But it's also tragic. It's tragic in two ways. It's tragic because we seem to be in a hurry to import GMOs. That's a story for another day or another time. But tragic because what are you wanting to do with maize farmers? in the short term, in the immediate term, because they have the maize. And you bring in maize in, 10 million bags of maize, we are told. What are you telling farmers in the North Rift? What are you really telling them? This is disaster for them. The maize price will drop so bad because millers will buy the cheap one. They will not buy maize from farmers in Eldoret or Kitale or Kakamega or Bungoma. They'll buy from the imports. So it's tragic because government policy surely should pretend even to care about people. Even pretend. These are they're not even pretending. They just say they don't care.
But then, Herman, if you just look from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yes.
Let's start with the consumer.
Yes.
The consumer is complaining about the high cost of maize flour.
Correct.
All right. And when the consumer asks, why is this unga so expensive? The miller says, it's because I'm getting the raw material, that is maize, at a very expensive price.
Yes.
In fact, I'm having problem accessing maize.
Yes.
Why is the miller buying this maize at such an expensive price? Because the farmer says, it cost me a lot to produce this maize.
Which is all true.
Which I'm not selling.
Yes.
So farmer wants to sell at a certain price.
Yes.
Miller says, if I buy at this price, I may not be able to actually sell it to the market.
Okay.
Consumer says, I may not be able to afford this maize. The previous government had come up with this scheme of saying that they're going to do the subsidy at the miller point, miller to consumption. Not many people felt the impact of that subsidy. Yet they talk about, was it 10 billion shillings?
Yes.
So what would your solution be if you are the one running government, if you are in government today? You can see all these things happening. What would you have done?
You look at short term, immediate term, what you do in the immediate and what you do in future. Of course, for future, it's very simple. Knock sense into agriculture in this country, into farming in this country, which has to do with inputs, with proper seeds, with marketing, because one of the reasons why farmers don't do farming in this country, because it's not profitable. When you have a bumper harvest, whether it be tomatoes, be onions, be maize, there's no market. So you deal with the husbandry. Like when you say we have a deficit of only 10 million bags, if you just sorted out the little mess post-harvest loss, for example, like just provided drying facilities to farmers, and then proper marketing to farmers, you will have no deficit of maize in this country. In the immediate term, you do what people do globally, internationally, which is to have sensible, I want to underline the word sensible, subsidy arrangement. Sensible, not this one of buccaneers in this country, where subsidy means people to make money. A serious, well thought out arrangement where the farmers are happy because they are getting the right price, the millers are getting at a price, and they can sell their product for a profit, which is what they are in for. In between, there's a government trying to moderate through the subsidy system for a while before these other things take off. It's a simple, straightforward thing. And the amount of money required for subsidy is not even a lot. And when you must import, this we must also mention, you start with the most obvious solution, which is look for Uganda maize, look for Malawi maize, look for Tanzania maize.
Commercial.
Yeah, look for the region. There is maize in the region. Before you bring GMOs or whatever, chakula ya farasi, before you bring to Kenya, look around for really human food.
Sure.
In Uganda here, and Tanzania and Malawi, whatever. Then if that is not available, you might begin considering the Moses option to kill them.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think, with all that's going on, with this long list of things that just seem to be tilting towards the negative, that the government of the day has a handle on things? The cost of living is a big issue. We're, of course, looking at this whole maize thing. There's children going to school in December, and the question of whether we're going to, have children in secondary school or primary school. I mean, there are many things on the plate. There's a hustler fund which is coming and going. Do you think the government has a handle on matters, even though the bowels are moving?
Yeah, the ball is moving and the government is trying. We must give credit to President William Ruto and his government. Things are working. But let me tell you this, from my understanding of history. When a country is where we are, you need a firm hand. You need somebody who says something, of course, within the understanding of law.
Oh, it's a firm hand.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about a firm hand.
No. Farm hand. At State House. You know the letter Mkulima kutoka was in English? No, I don't mean that. I'm just saying that you need somebody in control. Yeah. Evidently so. That's number one. And number two, which is really sad for this country, you need men and women to help you run government. We've seen this in history. When a country is facing challenges, kings and prime ministers and presidents and whoever they are always go out to look for the best they can get at that particular time. A couple of individuals, you know. This seems to be the opposite in this country. At a time you are facing very serious challenges, you form government of people who can be anything but serious. That is where the problem to me is. So I'm not seeing government in control.
Surely.
And I'm worried because, as a Kenyan, I keep saying there are not many people who love this country like Manyora. If people love this country just half as much as I do, this will be a better country. I'm not seeing anybody seeming to know, first of all, just to understand, to know that things are bad. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying. Just seeming to know that things are not what they think they are. Before you even talk about attempting to solve those problems, even just understanding
the problem is an issue for you, as from what you're saying, that understanding the issue is a problem for government today.
Yeah. They don't seem to understand that the situation is bad. Yeah, I'm telling you.
And what, in your opinion, demonstrates this, Herman?
Pardon?
What demonstrates this lack of understanding?
Policies on everything you can see is, first of all, is not coherent. Some CS is saying this, you can see you have just told me the other one is saying this, and pronouncements on very major issues, very casually, you know, and just business as usual.
Actually,
on very serious issues.
There's one senior official who also jumped into it. That is the head of public service, Felix Koske. He also said very categorically that they are not going to rescind the order to import maize. And he cautioned leaders against politicizing the process for selfish gains.
Who is selfish?
Those leaders who are politicizing.
At what point was that, you know what I'm saying now, casual, approach to very serious issues. Issues of importation of maize at a time farmers are harvesting. It's not a matter one person can be allowed just to talk on the roadside that we are going to import 10 million bags. This is something that must be arrived at after very serious deliberation at cabinet level and even involving parliament, at least the committee on agriculture, not just an individual. That's number one. But when you introduce GMO, I'm telling you, then you can begin to see what I'm talking about. These are people who don't seem to understand the challenges we are facing. Because GMO cannot function in this country. But let's not go there. Let's just say that it is bad enough. Even if maize was not GMO, like he's saying, you know, who is the head of the public service?
He's a gentleman by the name of...
no, I'm not asking for his name. Yeni Nani.
He's the head of public service.
No, that's not his doctor. The head of the public. He's to relate to the country. What government has said.
What does the head of the public service
He's not government. Head of public service is not government. Yeah, it matters maybe serious issues deliberated at cabinet level. Now, when Kenyans are told this is what we have decided, we have looked, the experts have given us a picture about food in this country,
and this is
about the harvest, what we are expecting,
Yeah.
and the deficit. And to bridge this, we are bringing in 10 million bags, but we are prepared to protect the farmer. When these 10 million come, this is how we're going to handle it so that the farmer will not be forced to sell their maize at 2,000 shillings. Because that comes only after serious deliberation.
That's right. That's the kind of communication that should be coming from government.
Yes, which is
from the head of state. So the head of state himself, speaking in Kilifi last week but one, said the same thing. We are going to import maize.
How?
After Moses Kuri had said we're going to import maize.
Yes.
His prime cabinet secretary says, no, we should not be importing maize until we get information from the agriculture minister. Now the head of public service is saying we are not going to rescind the order to import maize.
You see that confusion?
There's a lot of
government doesn't seem
confusion
to be in control.
It doesn't seem to know.
Can I add to the confusion?
Who else?
Why not?
You see, while we're at it, let's have a delightful mixed basket here. There are those who are claiming until the harvest is in and we know what we have, how can you talk of a shortage?
Yes.
Because it's when the harvest is in and we are clear that we've harvested everything we have that you can determine the shortage.
Yes.
But these people are determining the shortage before that has happened.
Yes.
So
the invisible hand, somebody seems to be pushing them because, first of all, the kind of announcements that were made regarding the importation, you tell somebody in a hurry to do something. And then somebody tells you there's maize somewhere on high seas already, or docked at Mombasa and the World Food Program. And even small countries like Burundi can tell off these people when they are bringing GMO. I feel so bad to be a Kenyan. Even small countries like Burundi can say, go to hell with your maize. And we are just there to accept things because somebody is giving us, you know.
Actually, I mean, we don't just accept things. Let's stratify this thing and ask who has accepted and what is our history with regards to maize.
Yes.
The hand is usually not that invisible. Start off with who produces the most GMO maize on this planet?
Yes.
It's America.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, who is likely to give us or to sell or whatever it is, maize?
Yes.
It is them.
Them.
Now, the question you also want to ask is, so how did it happen? Because as you say correctly, this whole thing seems to be the whole process is being pushed. It's on speed dial.
Yes.
It's like let it happen quickly. The thing I find peculiarly disturbing is that in a country like ours, where we openly state that we are agricultural and that the backbone of our economy is agricultural and we have farmers, an action is being taken that will disenfranchise the farmers completely. Even if it wasn't GMO maize, even if it was just maize, and it's cheaper, the farmers will be disenfranchised completely. So how then can you claim that you are actually looking after the interests of your citizens?
No, you can't. Look at if you want to know these guys, and sadly enough, the president now was really behind the Gulana Kulalu. I asked myself, they say they want to produce maize from 1 million acres. Of course, they let us scale down to 500,000. Let's stick with the initial thinking of 1 million acres. And they said that the technology and the husbandry and the irrigation, all those put together, will give them a minimum of 60 bags per acre. I didn't go to school, and the little I went, I think I didn't do well. 60 bags per acre from 1 million bags, what do you get? Eric Bana, you are supposed to be a
60 bags an acre from 1 million.
Yeah.
60, is that not 60 million?
Yeah. And Kenyans' need at that time was about 45 million. Now we are about 52, 55 million. So at a go, if that project succeeded, Eric,
that's it.
Latif,
would be self-sufficient.
Not self-sufficient. You'll kill North Rift. You'll kill the farmer completely. Because this is large-scale production.
Yes.
And you are getting 60 million per bag. So from Gulana Kulala alone, you get more money, more maize than Kenya needs. Where do you live with the farmer in Eldoret, in Kakamega, in Kitale? Look at those kind of policies. You know, you cannot understand this.
How do
you understand
You
that?
produce for exports.
You produce for export.
Which
And this is the
export
question.
is
How is that not what we are saying? That you are able, how did other countries do it? How did other countries do it whereby you're able to still produce locally? You have projects that produce in surplus. But what you do is that you feed your people, you protect your farmers, and then you sell the surplus until you become sustainable.
What you need to do is to ensure that the Kenyan farmer can produce enough maize for consumption, which is just about 55. We have a deficit of about 10 million. And I've told you, Eric, the pain the farmer is going through in North Rift, if you remove that pain alone, you get the deficit of 10 million. Look at how much you waste. Today, you go to Kitale, just travel, if you are, or if you are in the air when you're about to land, you see this they call it stacks of maize, where after cutting, you put them in so they can dry further than before you. And it's raining. And therefore, you cannot dry your maize. Can you begin to imagine how much loss that is? Just begin to imagine how much loss that is.
There's a lot.
You see?
A lot goes to waste.
Secondly, when a farmer is getting 20 bags per acre, it is because there's confusion in terms of seed production in this country and sell. How much seed do we need in this country that government can allow all manner of people to come with all manner of seed? The starting point is to talk to Kenya Seed, University of Nairobi, Egerton University, Seuku, they have 30,000 acres or whatever of land, and tell them, please produce seed, free seed. It cannot even cost 10 billion shillings. I've never done the arithmetic, but I'm sure even 10 will be too much. Why would you allow it to be a business for people to produce all manner of seed responsible for the poor harvest. So what I'm saying, a little seriousness injected into maize production, just a little trick of seriousness, you bridge the gap of 10 million bags. Now, if you were to go to Glana Lalo now, you'll be going with your eye on export.
Yep.
Okay? So these farmers produce enough, and you rope in value addition, okay, within the maize growing areas. They have enough for the country, and there's a value addition. Now, you go to irrigation. If you must do irrigation, I don't support irrigation of maize. You can do a horticulture, not maize. If you do a large-scale production of maize, not to compete with the farmer here, but now for export. So that's some little thinking going into it. But the way it is, there's no evidence of thinking at all.
You still need maize for animal feeds.
I'm saying all that
can be taken care of.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. It's 7:30. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Political analyst Herman Manyora is our guest today. We're looking at the state of the nation, what's happening in the country, and what are his thoughts on it. Have you sent a text to 22365? Send a text written Elmer, E-L-M-E-R, to 22365 so that you get more information about the 265 Elmer apartments on Mwiki Road, just 3 kilometers off the Thika Superhighway. It's a gated community being brought up by Centum Real Estate. Several houses there. And, you know, if you are somebody who is paying rent from 20,000 shillings to 60,000 shillings today, you can actually start owning a home sooner than you think, because you can convert that money, the kind of rent that you're paying today, in towards home ownership. All you need to do is look for 200,000 shillings, put a deposit for a house.
Start earning towards yours.
Yeah, and start going towards owning your own home. 265 Elma Apartments, Mwiki Road, Kasarani. A project by Centum Real Estate. Send the word Elmer, E-L-M-E-R, to 22365. Get more details.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Enjoy Black November with Cold Stone Creamery Kenya. Get 2 Gotta Have It cups and 2 cake slices at only 1,500 Kenya shillings, and other amazing deals for you and your friends this November. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and enjoy creamy, smooth ice cream and deliciously crafted ice cream cakes. Ice cream is always a great idea.
Everyone remembers the ambition they first had when they started their business.
A business holds promise. An idea could blow up and change lives anywhere on the planet. But the best idea is not worth much if it can't be executed by a solid team. Introducing The Room, the talent solution that provides a global network of tech talent, relationships, and resources dedicated to drive growth and innovation in your business. Hire tech talent and pick from qualified software engineers, cloud developers, web developers, and data analysts, all vetted and trained to Silicon Valley standards. The way we work has changed, and subsequently, so should the way we hire. Visit theroom.com today and discover how we can improve your business.
It's a magical Christmas at Westgate Shopping Mall. Spend 1,000 Kenya shillings and above and stand to win an all-inclusive Mediterranean cruise to the most beautiful cities in Europe. Visit Rome, Venice, Barcelona, and get to bring someone with you. You also have the chance to win once-in-a-lifetime balloon.
Cloudy conditions at 17 in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's 14 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 13, and we'll see lows of 14 in the mostly cloudy Nyeri at 16. Going to highs of 22. 24 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 14 currently, coming down to lows of 13. Continues to rain in Mombasa at 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. 26 will be the low in a mostly cloudy in Malindi at 27, highs of 31. And it's 21 and cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Kakamega is sunny at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 15. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 19 in Kampala, highs of 27. It'll go to highs of 30 in a rainy Dar es Salaam at 25, and it's 14 and sunny in Johannesburg with highs of 21. We'll see lows of 12. Looking into Lagos, rain showers at 25, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 30 in a rainy Kinshasa this morning at 23.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, so a little bit of build-up just as you're approaching the southern bypass. And we'll also see some traffic then coming off of Lunga Lunga. It's likely to spill over to Likoni. That will touch on that southern bypass as well. Looking off of Outer Ring, Manyanja Road is really busy, as is Juja Road, starting to pile up. And we're seeing that continuation through to the Thika Superhighway, where we've got massive traffic, slowing down all the way from the Safari Park Hotel way out towards past then into Githurai. Wow, that's quite some traffic this morning. So also looking at this, connecting with the eastern bypass all the way through and through. The northern bypass doesn't look too bad, but we're likely to see a spillover of traffic there as well. And also coming off into Westlands, it still continues. Let's try as much as possible keep things moving this morning. It's raining in some parts, so it's slippery, and the rain likely to continue for most parts of the morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
The conversation continues as we talk about this. So pupils are beginning their exams this week. Helen Njuguna says, I want to wish my son success as he sits for his final KCP exams at Oldonyo Sabuk Preparatory School. Schools are closing. People are doing their exams. Mm-hmm. Schools will reopen in how long?
8
Just a couple of weeks' time.
Mm.
And when it's time to open the schools again, what will happen? You'll need school fees. You'll be buying shoes. You'll be buying shoe polish.
And I hear subsidy has been removed.
Mm.
Yes, it has.
There was no subsidy. Just, price reduction.
Price reduction.
Yes.
Now I'm talking about school
reprieve,
fees.
reprieve of 8,500 shillings. You know, but now the reprieve is over.
It's over, huh?
There was this matter of COVID. And these are some of the measures that were taken during the COVID era to cushion the parents from the ravages. And now COVID is no longer with us. It actually is still with us. It's just that it's very well managed.
We're getting back to the full proper school calendar.
Yes. So
when we reopen, so we're back to normal.
So that discount has been discontinued.
Factory settings.
Was it really about COVID? I think
yes, it was.
Is it about the free day secondary school or what? There's something else? I don't know.
It was because of the number of weeks in a term.
Oh.
Those had been reduced from 39 weeks to 30 weeks.
Uh-huh.
So even Ministry had said now that the weeks are less, even the school fees then should.
And the reduction was primarily because of COVID.
Oh, so okay.
So when schools reopen, people will be buying shoe polish, eh?
Yes. For school.
Yes. So if you buy Kiwi black shoe polish, what happens?
Shine your shoe.
You shine your shoes. Remember David Rudisha? Fiatu fiangu finangara. It is a Kiwi advert that he had done. So Kiwi are running a promotion and they say get instant airtime or data, school fees, rewards. When you buy black Kiwi shoe polish, open the lid. Under the lid you will find what? A unique code. That unique code, you send it by dialing star. It's even written here. Dial star 459 star 5 hash and enter that code under the lid and send it. You stand a chance of winning.
It could be you.
Yeah, it could be you getting instant airtime, instant data, or every single week one person gets 35,000 shillings.
Wow, that's good.
School fees.
School fees in India,
why? That's the idea. Herman.
Yes.
Moving away from the maize issue. Raila is on the headlines today. What's that front page of the Nation?
Fresh face-off revealed. Azimiola Umoja won Kenya's three-pronged approach to defend itself and deal with renegades as it counters President William Ruto's charm offensive in coalitions. Okay, it's actually coalitions. In coalition strongholds, in an exclusive, Opiyo Wandayi, who is the Assembly Minority Leader, explains Azimio's plans inside and outside the House to maintain unity. So it's called a fresh face-off.
The Standard says Raila asks foot soldiers to protest new Ruto rules. The ODM leader has said the opposition will organize nationwide meetings to check President William Ruto's administration and protect 4 IEBC commissioners who contested the August 9th presidential poll results. The new push resembles the People's Assembly that Raila launched in 2017 to pile pressure on Uhuru Kenyatta's administration after his election loss. The pressure from the assemblies contributed to the March 2018 handshake between Raila and Uhuru in what reads like the 2017 script. The ODM leader says he is keen to use the broad-based forum to discuss issues affecting Kenyans and marshal public support for the IEBC commissioners. He launched scathing attacks on Ruto's administration, saying he'll not let the new administration push the country back to the dark days.
Back to the dark days. Yeah, well.
So first of all, the issue of the Cherera 4, there are those that are saying, this is political witch hunt. This Cherera 4, they expressed their views. They were not found to have gone astray by, even the Supreme Court did not say this Cherera 4 actually broke the law. It said, Supreme Court said there are issues within the IEBC that need to be organized. Administratively, they need to get their house in order. But they did not say that Cherera 4 had committed any. So, why remove the Cherera 4?
There are so many things to say. I don't know where to start. It's too early in the morning.
You're right, because as you're saying it, Eric, you revived something. I mean, why didn't the Supreme Court pronounce itself on that matter? Because
it did.
What exactly did they say about the
and I think if they came close to indicting Chebukati, I know this 4. So there are so many things you can say about these 4 commissioners.
This is the point I'm making. You've actually said it.
Yes.
They should have.
Yeah.
They should have done what? Who? The Supreme Court should have?
You don't suggest an indictment. You indict.
Yes.
You say you censure. Yeah. You don't suggest, approach it, and then withdraw. What have you done?
They said Chebukati didn't have the power to do what he did. What he did was wrong, but they proceeded to say the elections were okay, which is again is okay.
Is it really?
We are basically dealing with hot air, and hot air is a difficult thing to handle.
And it's also opaque.
It can send a balloon up,
Yes.
So now, now that's one of the things that what does the Supreme Court say vis-a-vis what this petition is about. The two really don't make sense. They don't add up. Secondly, the commissioners are already prejudged. Because if you have the president pronouncing them as a rogue and how to subvert the will of the people, and the role of the president in the removal of the commissioners is so supreme that once he says these guys are rogue and they did ABCD,
judgment has been cast.
It's already been cast. There's no point of going on with the process, because it's the president who finally appoints the tribunal, and the tribunal then is appointed, in a manner that will favor what the president is thinking, which is also wrong. But to me, the more important thing are 2. I think number 1 is the question of what this government seems to be doing. It's out to revenge. At my age, I don't know whether anybody here is of my age. Muga may have white and grey. Is it white or grey hair? I've never understood.
This hair is actually quite white.
He may have white or grey hair, but he may not be anywhere near my age. At my age, I know one thing, Latif. Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them. But when you are young, you'll see me. So I see the government doing that, and I'm surprised. These guys are in power. If I'm in power, why do I look behind at a small man because he said some useless thing? But he didn't stop me from getting power. Now that I'm in power, so I just show him you are useless by ignoring him. That's the first thing. The government, in a number of things they have done, you can list up to 10, that they are on a revenge spree. They are out to settle scores, which is not good. It may be wrong. But from DCI to these commissioners to whatever you call it, from the court cases and what have you.
They could argue they are writing.
Well, they could argue, but I'm saying
they are writing the
argue.
wrongs.
Listen, Latif, it's a public issue about perception. The perception that this country is out to revenge. It's just the wrong perception. But again, the second thing, and again, which is very serious about IBC, and where even Raila could be wrong on these people, this is not a question of these 4 commissioners. I think, from my thinking, the country requires some reset. So whether these commissioners remain or not, I can't see this commission taking us in another election. I just can't see it. So why are people dealing with small things when the bigger issue must be settled, which is what do Kenyans think about their elections in terms of the body that supervises, in terms of the composition, the structure.
The institution itself,
yes,
not the individuals.
No. First of all, do we need 7 commissioners? Do we need more or less? India, with millions of voters, hundreds of millions of voters, has had 3 for a long time. I don't know what they have now. Look, do we need 7? Do we need more? Do we need them to be full-time or part-time? Those are the issues. How do we select them? Do we rely on this so-called selection panel that ends up giving us cartoons? Or do we just bite the bullet and say, look here, let's just do what we did in 1907. Let ODM give us 2 people. Let somebody else give us another 3. And let's have 9 or 12. I mean, that's the conversation we ought to be having about our elections. But the idea of removing
holistic
these 4
electoral reforms.
No, I don't think we need to think about these 4. It's irrelevant. The thing is, what is the bigger thing we need to be doing before the next election, wherever that election comes?
Yeah.
I'm not one of the people who are seeing elections in terms of 2027. This election could come even earlier. Yeah. But at that time when we have another election, can we trust the Chapukati kind of a commission? This thing can plunge the country into chaos. We must deal with it once and for all. You know what happened earlier? When we almost lost it in 2007, we decided to do it a little better by giving ourselves institutions, which we did, wonderful institutions. But we failed in one critical area. The people in those institutions, they leave a lot to be desired. For example, in the Supreme Court, until we are serious enough to produce Kenyans, I would suggest we move the Supreme Court to 9 members of the court, not 7. And we say at least 4 must be from the Commonwealth.
Why do you say non-Kenyans?
That's my thinking. Non-Kenyan, from the Commonwealth. We've done it before. We had a commission where there were, I think, TJRC and another one again where we had foreign.
There's a period in this country where everything was being run by
We need
foreigners.
to have about 4 members that
As
are
if
not
Kenyans
Kenyan
cannot do anything
and
for
5 who are
themselves.
Kenyan.
Why do you feel that
Why
we
you
need
need-
an external presence?
We seem to be wanting in that direction.
Why?
Why?
How?
Evidence abounds.
All right.
What
I,
evidence?
as Manyora, I am not convinced we have the best that we should be having in terms of the Supreme Court. And I could be wrong. It's possible I'm wrong.
And what in your opinion, again it's your opinion,
Yes.
would represent the best? What cadre, what caliber, what visible content would this...
That is the conversation we need to have about Kenya. First of all, when we were advertising for a few positions recently, the position that brought in Justice William Ouko and Justice Martha Koome, I think there are just 2 or 3.
Those two.
What did you see? 2 things were noticeable. First, that for such a beautiful girl like Justice of the Supreme Court, in terms of the President and the Chief Justice, only 12 or 13 Kenyans applied for such a the very
Such a prime
apex,
position.
yeah, of the legal practice. Any serious lawyer or judge will be eyeing that seat. Only 13 could apply.
The peak of one's career.
Yes. I thought that tells you something. Kenyans have given up on fair processes. Kenyans think it's a waste of time. Look at people who applied for principal secretaries. I have no friends of mine with impeccable CVs and record, but I'm not even shortlisted. When these 4 commissioners were being hired, colleagues of mine applied with impeccable credentials. They took them, including some of our, let me not mention, but our students.
You have negated
what I'm saying-
the same thing you're saying. You've just said it on one side and then you've gone and negated it the other.
Tell me how.
You said that just because less than 20 people applied for the position of Chief Justice,
Yes.
it demonstrates that Kenyans don't have confidence
Yes.
in the processes.
Yes.
And then you tell us thousands applied for position of IBC Commissioner, thousands applied for position of PSS. Shows you that Kenyans have confidence in the process.
No, you see, for the judiciary, for Chief Justice, it is a small, focused job.
Yes.
And therefore, you should expect people within that narrow space to be interested.
And there are few.
But they are not that few. But within the job of the public service, the space is wide, and many people have nets they are casting in the water.
Cast their nets.
Casting that and getting nothing. You see what I'm saying? So,
but back to the issue of
Yes.
IEBC,
Yes,
and
yes.
I pick on what you've said,
Yes.
that even Raila is focusing so much on the 4 commissioners
instead of focusing on the big thing.
instead of focusing on the bigger thing, which is electoral reforms.
Yes.
There's a bill
Yes.
that's been presented to Parliament,
Yes.
which is seeking to amend
Yes.
the selection panel for the IEBC commissioners. Now, remember, for sure we know that Chebukati and 2 other commissioners are leaving office in January.
In January.
And there's going to be selection of new IEBC commissioners.
yes.
Now, is there sufficient conversation happening around this? Because this is amending a bill. It was amended just the other day by the handshake government on how the IEBC commissioners are to be selected. This time, the amendment is, instead of having 4 people who are nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission, reduce that to 2, and then 2 others come from other interest groups. 1, Public Service Commission, another one from the public. I've always argued that having politicians sitting at that table to select the referee is not...
matters that concern them.
Yes, it's wrong. It should be...
It's a direct conflict of interest.
It should be a majority of non-politicians. If you must have politicians, because there's no difference between having a Parliamentary Service Commission nominating somebody and then another one you say at a political caucus. Political parties caucus shall nominate.
It's politicians. Essentially, it's politicians.
It's politicians.
You know, Eric,
Public Service Commission is basically State House.
You know me, Eric, my ways, I do my ways in a very straightforward way. A very simple way. I like things done in a very simple way. Not simplistic, but simple. Let's just admit that the selection process is flawed. Even before we make the major changes, just looking at the selection itself, because even if we make major changes, at some point we will have to agree we need a commission and there'll be some form of selection.
Yes.
My thinking is, let's bite the bullet. Let's say all those processes cannot give us the right people. Let's just ask political parties to
make selections from the beginning. The assumption being
And
that
listen,
all,
Eric,
the assumption being that all of these individuals must
Eric,
come from
Eric,
the political
Eric,
circles.
Eric, if you do a little reading on the issues of electoral bodies, you'll find there are 3-4 ways of populating an electoral body, how they are selected. And you'll find interesting that if it is done by political players, it is not just one of the methods, but it's one of the most preferred.
Why is
Stop
it?
pretending.
By who?
Sorry, but where is this pool of-
Scholars. I'm saying you Google, you find it.
Herman,
It's one. There are ways. There are various approaches of selecting
Let's take a-
commissioners to a body, whatever you call them.
Let's take a step back.
Political parties doing it is one way.
But from what pool is this selection coming, is my question.
From what?
From what pool is this selection coming?
Once we give it to political parties, there's a problem. They can give us anybody. They gave us Jack Tuma. They gave us I don't know who. They gave us people. Anyona gave us somebody. I don't know. Yeah, and they were good commissioners. We pretend. Let's stop pretending. Let's say this thing is.
They were good commissioners.
It's partisan.
In 97.
Yes.
The same politicians, some complained. In 2002, as we went to an election, the same IPPG kind of process gave us commissioners that went into 207.
Yes.
In 207, there was a whole issue of Mwai Kibaki's appointing some people. He's tinkering with this thing. He's doing this and
If we had continued with the same approach, perhaps it would have been better. Because Kibaki now ignored the other approach of selecting the commissioners, and he did it his own way. And I'm saying this is Kenya and we know it. Let's just look at political parties and tell them, give us commissioners. Once we have agreed on how many, then we share them out. Stop pretending.
You know, there's a benefit here, as I see it, in that if political parties choose, when they pitch a fit, as they usually do, we'll tell them, excuse me, you are part of this. So please find something else to tell us.
Yeah.
Because the moment something doesn't go their way, they talk as though they weren't even aware. In 2017, the Supreme Court was very clear about what should happen with that electoral body.
Yes.
All these politicians kept quiet.
They thought they were going to get. The only thing they are getting it.
Yes, they did not. The reforms that had been alluded to did not come. Right. So now we have an election and suddenly there's an issue. How? Why?
So you need to look at
the opportunity was there.
It's the same thing, Herman.
Yes.
Currently, Before Kimani Ichung'wah moves his bill and they amended the law, currently there are 7 people in the selection panel. 4 of whom come from the Parliamentary Service Commission. That is politicians. All right? The other 3 are representing other interests. There are those who represent public interest, which is still politically done. When these Charera 4 were appointed last year, it was this same way. And they seemed to have been talking, it's because it's politicians who've basically gone through this process. Even the vetting is done by the National Assembly. Politicians are involved. Now those politicians are complaining that these 4 have gone rogue. We are not resolving the issue when you give the politicians.
You stop pretending. There are a number of things you'll do, of course. One of them is just how you select commissioners, which in my view should be based on political parties' strength. And then they give us directly. The second thing you want to ask yourself, the power of the IBC commissioners vis-a-vis the secretariat. You need to find a way of creating, some working relationship. Who does what? Then we also need to decentralize our elections. We need to have some form of management of elections at the county level. It's done in America, for example. But we learn from America in terms of, its political parties and their biases. So we do it with that in mind. So we decentralize up to the county level, management of IBC. There are many things we can do, but a lot of we cannot do them here. What I'm saying is we need to think about we need to think anew about our elections, because I want to be allowed to repeat this. If we continue messing with this thing, it will take this country down. We are playing with fire. This country can go down. Because I tell you, the amount of anger people have in this country as we speak is not good for any country.
Over what?
Over the elections. No country is safe, especially a multi-ethnic country like ours.
Over the manner in which the election was won, or over the manner in which the election was run, or those who won or lost?
Over the election in terms of how did it end.
Which means the process.
We have millions of Kenyans who are hurting badly enough. Should some opportunity present itself? And that's why I've been asking Raila Odinga, please, think hard and think twice before this issue of mass action.
Would they feel this way, this group of people? Because I think this is very important in this process that we're talking about. Are they upset about who won the election?
Correct.
Would they feel differently if their person had won and still have an issue with the process?
If the process is right, then it produce the right person.
According to you?
Not according to me. That's
no. According to your desire.
Just logic and truth.
If your person won.
Don't introduce your person. No, don't introduce your person.
I must ask this question because it's really important. We are saying that people have an issue with the process of an election. They're not happy with the outcome. That means that the person they wanted to win did not win.
Correct.
They're not looking at the process. It is very possible for the process to have been carried out really well and your person still lost. And this is my question. Are they not satisfied with the process of elections, the different things that we saw, ballot boxes reaching late, things like that? Or are they upset because their candidate did not win? Those are two totally different things.
Answer it shortly.
They are different.
Haman, as we say goodbye.
They are different, but they are related. And they end up being one and the same at some point, at convergence point. Look here, the election is flawed, okay? And people can see. At the end of the process, someone wins. And it is clear to many people, if the process was right, the person who won wouldn't have won.
If the process is flawed?
So the same. What's the difference, madam? The same.
I see. I mean, interesting maths, wouldn't you?
But the more important thing, as we wind up...
6 million, so the process is flawed. 7 million did not see the process.
Yeah, the more
flawed.
important thing is that there are people who are hurting. Okay. And they strongly believe the elections were flawed.
Okay.
We need to correct that for future.
Yeah. Herman Manyora, always a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Keep it here for more conversations. We talk about the Hustler Fund in the next hour. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The pioneer class of the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, together with a class of 2022 candidates sitting the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, are writing the exams that will run for the next 3 days. The Kenya National Examination Council is administering 3 national examinations for the first time to a record-breaking 3 million learners. And while it's all systems go across the country, the story for candidates in Baringo South is different. Candidates sitting national examinations in some 5 schools in Baringo South will be forced to sit the exams in one center. Area leaders say though normalcy is slowly returning to the area, properties in a number of schools was vandalized by bandits, necessitating a merger of affected schools. Reports indicating pupils from Arabal, Chebinyiny, Kipsandasum, Kasiela and Chemorigon primary schools will all sit for KPSE exams in one center. This as Newswire and entire Standard Media Group wishes the candidates the very best in their exams. Now, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga has announced that he will hold public rallies to engage Kenyans on the ongoing probe of 4 independent election boundaries commissioners by Parliament. The 4, Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Francis Onderi, and Justice Nyang'aya, are being grilled after a petition was filed challenging the suitability to hold office following the disowning of the August 9th election presidential results. Speaking in Kisumu, the former Prime Minister accused President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza administration of what he called imposing a user-friendly IEBC to Kenyans. He announced a plan to traverse the country starting this week to engage Kenyans on the fate of the 4 commissioners.
We will begin in Nairobi on Wednesday. We will have a meeting with the people of Nairobi at Kamkunji grounds to ask them if they accept that these commissioners should go home. We will then do the same thing in Mombasa. We'll do the same thing in Nakuru. We'll do the same thing in Kisumu. Do the same thing in Kakamega. Because an independent electoral commission is the referee. It cannot be appointed by a player. So we will not allow the Kenya Kwisha regime to impose a commission on the people of Kenya. That is not acceptable.
He says Kenyans are going through a difficult time and that the government must put measures that will ensure Kenyans have it easy.
Price of basic commodities like food is very high, energy pretty high, fuel is very, very high, the cost. So the people are suffering. And some of those palliative measures which had been introduced by the previous government, like Kazi Mtaani, which we had said was going to be continued, have all been stopped.
Now, former Marakwet West MP William Kisang floored 20 candidates in the Elgeyo Marakwet senatorial race UDA party primaries. These follows primaries where he garnered 28,136 votes. Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi, declared the seat vacant through a gazette notice after Kipchumba Murkomen secured a Transport and Roads Cabinet Secretary docket. The UDA party had rolled a circular inviting interested aspirants to apply for nominations, with aspirants in the post of the member of the Senate paying a nomination fee of between 125,000 and 250,000 shillings based on whether the interested candidate is a male, female, youth or persons living with disability. And Laikipia leaders have called for unity in the region to end banditry and other criminal activities. Speaking in Olmoran Ward, Laikipia County, Sarah Korere, who was elected under Jubilee ticket to represent the people of Laikipia North constituency, said she will not let the government sleep on its job and that is proud to be in the position. She called and added that the recent activities of the government trying to sabotage the opposition will not be tolerated, adding that she will stand firm to defend her people no matter which party she was elected in. Sarah further asked the leaders of the region to work as a team to fight banditry and other criminal activities, because when one part of the country is affected, the entire county will be in danger. And the hoteliers in Lamu are set to reap big following a huge turnout of local and international tourists with the comeback of the 20th edition of the Lamu Cultural Festival. The 4-day Lamu Cultural Festival is hailed as the holy grail of Lamu's tourism and festival calendar due to the number of tourists who usually flock to the World Heritage Site to showcase an allure of Swahili culture. According to Lamu County Tourism Department, it is estimated that the return of Lamu Cultural Festival after the past 2 years following the COVID-19 crisis will bring great ideas in terms of economy of the county. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
It's been a minute since we saw a lot of traffic on the Eastern Bypass, but it's touching all the way round to Outer Ring today, so that's really heavy traffic. And we're also looking at it really heavy as well on Mombasa Road. This is just after the Southern Bypass, heading out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. It's going to be there for some time from all indications. We're also looking at traffic that's building up on Langata Road, heading out towards the city. It doesn't look too bad coming out of Westlands this morning, and we're likely to see just a little bit of traffic coming off Gong Road, Naivasha Road, heading out towards Lavington and then through towards Westlands. Ring Road Westlands very busy this morning. Waiaki Way is doing the thing, and the Thika Superhighway heavy with bumper to bumper traffic. Kiambu Road not too bad today. Well, congratulations if you're on Kiambu Road, because it's not too bad. Limuru Road on the other hand, not just yet. Maybe we'll wait and see what happens Tuesday, but Monday looks really crazy from what we're looking at right now. Keep our wits about, folks, and let's see what happens in a short while. But traffic not too bad in many places. It's going to be sticky in some for some time. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there, and let's keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way.
8 minutes after 8. That is my mic. It's on 28th day of November 2022. Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. It's The Situation Room. Ndu, unaona hiyo? Kiwi,
yes.
Shoe polish, black.
Right.
Renews black leather.
It does the thing. It's been around for ages, hasn't it?
Yes. If you talk about rangi ya viatu, you say kiwi. Uko na kiwi?
Uko na kiwi.
Rangi ya viatu, right? So they are running a promotion now, and they're saying if you go to any shop and buy black kiwi shoe polish, you open the lid. Under the lid, you'll find a unique code. Send that code by dialing star 459 star 5 hash. Star 459 star 5 hash. Enter that code, send it, and you get a chance to win instant airtime or data, or be part of those people who win school fees rewards. 35,000 shillings worth of school fees every week.
Well, pretty nifty. It's going to come in handy.
School fees, my friend. Hey, big time.
It's going to come in
It's a
very
big
handy.
thing. All you need to do is do what? Buy Kiwi black shoe polish. It's available everywhere, countrywide. City Muga. Now, all you need to do is take us to Guinea and tell us what the Wahenga of Guinea have said.
Well, the Wahenga want to tell us this particular morning. And the statement they're going to make will be incomplete if I do not tell you that the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra is the screen from which I am getting my information.
Very good.
Right. The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Yes.
Bas. Let's talk now about what that means. I've got two guests in the studio joining us. Dr. Patrick Mwinde is an economist and financial expert. He is here with us alongside Bill Okero, who is a former chair of the Senate Finance and Budget Committee, who is also a former shadow finance minister in the National Assembly. They're both here. We're talking about the Hustler Fund, and it's called the Financial Inclusion Fund. Dr. Mwinde, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much for joining us as well, Bilo.
Pleasure.
Always good to have you.
Thank you.
Listening to that proverb, Patrick, it is from Guinea. The man who... say it again.
The man on his feet
Yes.
comes for the share of the man sitting down.
Wow.
What's the interpretation of that?
Probably I would imagine if I control something, if you have something I own, then you need to come to me for you to be able to get your share of that. So probably I control the resource and you need it. So you need to come to where I am.
Trust an economist.
To look at it differently.
Yeah, to interpret this thing and bring it down to the basics of resources, scarce resources that need to be planned for, and so who gets what. Well, that entire discipline is actually based on that, is it not? Okay.
It's about scarcity.
Yes.
It's resources and distribution of the same.
Yes.
Bilo, what do you interpret from that proverb?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on proverbs, but when you talk of a man standing and another one sitting, and the one standing coming up for the share of...
the one sitting.
Well, I look at it differently.
How differently?
I look at it as the big man coming for whatever little the poor guy sitting down has, or something like that.
Once again, trust a politician to interpret it.
See big and small man.
Yes, exactly.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
28th, we've been talking about, all right, so the president, while he was campaigning as candidate William Ruto, and the Kenya Kwanza coalition, they said, we want to establish a fund and call it the Hustler Fund. Kusaidia yule mtu mdogo aweze kujimudu kufanya biashara yake. Kama ni yule jamaa anauza miwa pale kwa stage, ama mama mboga, ama mtu fundi wa cherehani, wote wapate usaidizi wa kufanya biashara. They called it the Hustler Fund. When they got into office, of course, the pressure and the expectation was very high that this Hustler Fund was the main thing that we would expect from you. So the president had first said in December, we're going to have the Hustler Fund. Now the cabinet has actually said 30th of November, we launch the Hustler Fund. The CS for the National Treasury, Professor Jogona, has released the draft regulations on the Hustler Fund, talking about the Hustler Fund and how the shape it's going to take. It's basically 4 products in one, and how you can access the personal finance, and how then the MSMEs, and how much the fund is going to be. Now we read today in the papers that they've even looked at those regulations again and edited the regulations. They've removed the initial cap of 50 billion shillings and said it's Parliament that shall determine how much goes into this fund or any other sources that get into the fund. There's still a lot to explain though. But Patrick, what do you understand from the regulations that have been published, what the government has said so far about the Hustler Fund? How's it going to look like?
I think as of now, we're not sure what form it's taken, because we need to go back to what they promised. If you look at the commitment they had made in the manifesto, the Hustler manifesto, they had promised 50 billion annually. So the promise was annual. When the regulations came out, they said it would be Parliament 50, capped at 50. But then it has kept on shifting, it has kept on changing. If you look at the regulation, initially, if you look at the manifesto, they said they'll use existing financial frameworks. They talked about SACCOs, they talked about venture capital, they talked about equity fund. But when the regulations have come up, they seem to be shifting a bit in as much as they are retaining those financial institutions. But I think it's not coming in a vacuum, because we have had funds before. We have had the youth fund, we have had the women fund, and the WESO fund. Now, when you go through the regulations that they have issued, you don't see anything fundamentally different from what we have. And the question is, why are we establishing a new fund when the existing one still have the framework, the system, and the structures? Because like you look at the target group, they talk about groups, organized teams, and all that. You go to the youth fund, women fund, and Ombaso fund, you still require the same groups, the same table banking groups. You need the same processes of registration and everything. So now you're asking, what is new in this new fund? What is unique? Probably the unique thing here to me is the volume of the amount of money talked about. I know many of us, when we talk about the 50 billion, it looks like small money until you look at it within the government spending frameworks.
Yeah.
Like now, if you look at the immediate budget that we've just we're implementing, the university fund is given 91.2 billion. If you go to free primary education, it gets in 12 billion. If you go to help, it's getting 15.8 billion. So when you're talking about 50 billion, putting it in the context of government spending program, it's a lot of money. And I don't think cumulatively the youth fund, women fund, and the Ombaso fund have actually ever received a total of 50 billion. So it's a colossal sum of money.
What is the, just estimating, what's the total sum that in the past, the three funds that you've mentioned, cumulatively, how much have they received?
The data is not consolidated, but when you look at the Ombaso fund has been the largest in recent times. They were given a total of 7.02 billion. So that's the total fund that Ombaso fund has given.
Total?
Yes.
And this is since 2014?
Yes.
2013, 2014?
Yes. They've only distributed 7.2 billion. Wow. So when you're talking about 50 billion,
is a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And putting it in a single fund, and especially when you're studying a new entity, putting it in the context of the economy, you want to sit back and ask, like, how many companies in Kenya are doing a turnover of 50 billion? How many companies in Kenya are doing a turnover of 50 billion?
There are very few.
Very few companies doing a turnover. So when you're talking about this fund, it's a huge fund.
Sure. What would be the rationale between coming up with this? I mean, one would shudder to think that it was just, a fly-by-night kind of decision whereby it was, all right, well, let's have a fund where Kenyans can borrow from. One would hope that some thought was put behind it. So if that was the case, and also coming from you, Bilo, what would be the rationale behind such a fund? If you've never seen one of its nature and stature as well, why come up with that and that number in the manner in which it is currently constituted?
My take is a bit different. I look at this thing as nothing more than a state-run Fuliza. Nothing, not much different. It's much ado about nothing, really. The government, of course, the cabinet in its memo said it's revolutionary. It's going to do away with all the predatory lending practices and so forth. And there's a lot of lofty statements about it, but it amounts to nothing really, as far as I'm concerned. I look at it differently. The reason is because both at the time, the amount of money that is being given. Don't look at the size of the 50 billion. That's nothing compared to Fuliza alone gave out 585 billion in 2021. Not to add Mshwari and add the KCB one, it's the kind of money that people have been giving. So for the government, 50 billion, even if you give each person the maximum of 50,000, how many people will get it? It's only 1 million people will get it. If you look at how many Kenyans are jobless, and we're told this is supposed to help people, who are jobless, people who are down there looking for small and micro enterprises, and so forth. The registered micro and small and medium enterprises alone with that authority are over 7.5 million. Those who are registered with those guys alone. And you create all that expectation that the government is going to give people money to create jobs so that everyone can fend for himself. And then you talk of 50 billion. I think in my view, and then you set up something that will really exclude the entire micro. If we look at the definition of the micro and small and medium enterprises, they're excluded by this fund. Because you're looking at those businesses where the minimum is 500,000, people who do at least turnover 500,000, who employ at least 10 people, and going up to 100 million. If you are doing $1 million shilling business or 2 million shillings business, and you're told you'll be given, a hustler fund of 10,000 shillings, because majority of people will not get the maximum.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people will get 10, 20,000 shillings. 10, 20,000 shillings is not going to be something that you would really feel it's going to change or to expand your business, because they said it's going to be used for expanding businesses. And they listed it in that fund regulation. They said small and micro enterprises, SACCOs and chamas, and I mean, those guys you can't do much with. The only people who might benefit from this money are the people who are already on Fuliza, who will find the rate of interest is lower on this one compared to Fuliza, because Fuliza would charge you, if you are taking anywhere between 25 to 50,000 shillings, they will charge you 25 shillings a day. That will probably, if you are taking about 50,000 shillings, that will come to about 18% in a year. This one, you're going to get it at 8%, and probably another 5-6% you're going to save. So there isn't an awful lot of difference, especially if you are taking that kind of 50,000. But so in my view, yes, it's and the reason why what Wendy said about the other funds, by the way, the other funds, I was just looking at the total amount of money that has been taken for the women and the youth and all other government funds, combined for the last 15 years. It's less than 35 billion.
Yeah.
15 years. And the reason is clear. One, the amounts are too small. Two, the requirements, eligibility requirements for you to register, as groups, as this, as that. And then, they have not been very useful. I mean, but for most, it is because of the size and the mode of disbursement. This is why they have moved very fast, these guys now. They've changed the last couple of months from you're going to register, you're going to do this, but now it is Fuliza. You just go to the phone and apply the same way you apply for the other one, and we'll give it to you, So
what is it that
why
people
do you
are
think
looking
that
for?
is? Yeah.
What are people looking for? Because it sounds like, if you look at this, yes, it's a Fuliza, but why was Fuliza also very popular? Why has Fuliza become very popular?
The ease of getting money. The access.
Ease of access.
Accessibility. That was the most important.
Okay.
You don't waste a minute. In 1 minute, you get your money. 10,000, 20,000.
Already you have it.
You have it.
If you look at the information that we've gotten from Safaricom, from the bank that they use, the KCB, the NCBA, and then also from the Central Bank of Kenya, from Equity, about that micro-lending on a short-term basis. It's basically like operating capital for small businesses. You go to borrow money at about 3 a.m. and then you pay that money by 10 p.m. And they have noticed that this is a big thing. So if the hustler gets this access to this money at 8%, which unlike the others which are offering at a different percentage, isn't that helping these businesses grow? It's keeping them afloat. It's helping them get that money that they need. You need this operating capital on a daily basis, so you're getting it.
It depends on the business that's going to help. I've said that. It's going to help those small businesses. I have in fact looked at it and said, okay, if you are doing vegetables, you are a for you to get a few...
to buy stock for the day.
Stocks for the day, 10, 20,000, that will help for you. If you are, doing your shoe shine, you have a stand out there, it can help you. But if you are doing any of those people who are doing micro, small, medium, those who are doing those kind of businesses, small, what we call small businesses, 10, 20,000 shillings is not going to make an awful lot of difference. Yeah. But if they do one thing, make the accessibility easy, just like Fuliza ones, completely. You have access without any stress. And then number two, you don't have any strict eligibility requirements, because that's the good thing with the funds. Whether you're using it to pay your school fees or giving it to your wife is not an issue. Nobody wants to know what you do with your money you're borrowing. Sure. So we don't know where it goes.
As long as you pay.
As long as you pay back. This one, the focus is it should be for business. Yeah. So then if they remove all those requirements and make it simply like Fuliza, then I could say I'm using it for business. And tomorrow I use it for a trip to go home. I think if you look at it for those businesses, but it's not going to help the objective of the fund. The objective was, you remember when the president used to campaign, he used to tell you, our vijana, tutapatia wajira. So for you to take 30,000, 20,000 shillings and then be employ somebody else, because you've got some more money for capital, it's not going to be that easy. Yeah.
So you're saying it's not going to be able to help these small businesses grow?
To grow, no. And create and give them opportunities to recruit more people and employ more people.
You cannot scale.
I don't think that is the kind of money most of the small businesses were looking at.
You cannot
businesses
scale.
were looking at serious money.
If you are a mamamboga, you will remain a mamamboga. All you have is better, easier access to.
Easier rate of payment.
The
rate
money
will be cheaper than what you would have taken from police. Yes, that's the only difference.
You know what Monsignor is saying is exactly very true, because if you look at the NCB statements, you're talking about January to September, ending this year. The report that they took on the 24th of November, Fuliza and Mshwari, they disbursed 521 billion. Okay, 461 was Fuliza, 60B was Mshwari. So already that is 10 times what had been proposed by the government. So now, in essence, I can now see the question you're asking. So how exactly is this government one going to work when already we have evidence that more money than what they're talking about has been used by probably the very same people that they're trying to reach? What impact is it going to make?
Yeah, I think there are a bit of constraints here. One, this is a public fund. So if these are public money, they are going to have a challenge of law, because you can't spend public money without the frameworks of the Public Financial Management and the Public Procurement Act. So that would be one challenge. But I'm also thinking they are making a huge assumptions, or we are making a huge assumptions that there was a vacuum. Like when we say we are targeting groups, these are the table banking, we are assuming there is a vacuum, and we are not asking, why did this table banking become so robust? Why are there so many? Because there was a vacuum of access. So if you go to the markets, for example, you go to Kikomba, you go to any urban and peri-urban area in the country, people already put themselves in groups and they're doing table banking. So they're mobilizing money among themselves and on lending to one another. And then the Hustler Fund seems to assume that these people were lacking access. You see, economics has no vacuum. The fact that there was no formal access to financing for this group of people, they created a solution. You see, and when you look at the regulation, it's talking about these groups. But these groups are already mobilized among themselves. Now, these guys are not in the banking system. They do it among themselves in the market.
Yeah.
For example, if now you go to the Kikomba in the morning, there are even the Shylocks who loan money in the morning, and then you pay back in the evening. So people already created a solution to the problem of unbanking and access to formal financing. So this is one of the big assumptions that they're making. But more so, they're moving to a space where they are competing with now the banks and the mobile-based platforms. And I think that's what Bill Okero is talking about. Now, what will make me choose the Hustler Fund and not Fuliza? If I'm required, and unless they change the regulations, as we're saying, it will be very hard for you to access that fund. Because one of the eligibility criteria is that you must be a registered group by the relevant government authority. Now, these women groups, these table banking groups, they operate in an informal environment. And this is not because there's a problem, because the economy has a problem itself. Because the economy is about 83% informal. So these are a lot of people. And you'll go to the Hustler Manifesto, they actually identified and flagged this to be about 10 million people who are in the informal sector. So it doesn't mean that they're not moving money. They are moving money. It's only that the money is outside the formal economic system. They do not go to the bank. They meet every maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and they share this kind of money. I can give a very good example. Like last year around December, I went to somewhere in a village in Kalama, and there was a women group that is moving about 5 million annually. These are the groups we're talking about. They are deep in the village.
How many members does it have?
Active members, there are about 60 of them.
And the source of their funds is?
The table banking.
Yes, the table
They're
banking.
doing table banking. They raise the money, they on lend to themselves.
To one another.
And they're actually been able to create even products among that kind of fund. If you go to my salon yesterday we were talking, they're meeting every Wednesday and they raise 200 shillings per person. And they're also having the separate investment fund. So when we say these guys have no access, yes, it's true they have no access, but in the formal system. Informally, they have their own systems. And I think this is what at policy level we need to be very careful not to make a sweeping assumption that these guys have no access. For me, for example, and this data we're looking from the M-Swari and all that, they borrow between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. These guys, by that time, they're in the market. Okay? So if I want to access the ASLA fund, will I be able to access it within that window where the banks and the other financial institutions have already built a niche? And they build a niche. So how will we compete in that space?
Let's take a break. You know, as you're saying all those things, Patrick, remember that this one mantra by the Kenya Kwanza Coalition could be argued to have contributed a lot to the support that the Kenya Kwanza Coalition got.
Yes.
Which means that they spoke the language which addressed a need. Was there a gap? I don't know. Was there a need? Was there something that people felt that, yes, this one actually touches on what we have? Probably. And let's look at that after we take a break. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. It's 8:30. We are here with Dr. Patrick Mwinde. He's an economist and a financial expert, and Bill Okero, former senator and also a financial expert, a former chair of the Senate Finance and Budget Committee, also former shadow minister for finance in the National Assembly. We're talking about the Financial Inclusion Fund, aka the Hustler Fund. It's going to be launched on Wednesday. What is it all about? How is it going to work? How is it going to benefit us? We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning to all the SpiceFM listeners, wherever you are joining us from.
Pleasure. It's always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed. And as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
If you feel you cannot proceed as demanded by the Constitution, you feel the pressure is too much, please go home.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry. Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, cloudy conditions, what we're still looking at in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 15. 25 will be the high in a sunny Nakuru at 15, and it's cloudy at 16 in Nyeri. Highs of 22 and lows of 14. We'll see highs of 24 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 18 currently, and light rain at 26 in Mombasa. Highs of 31 and lows of 24. 26 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 28, going to highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 28 in a cloudy Kisumu at 21 currently. Looking into Kakamega, it's 23 and cloudy. Highs of 27. And lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions in Kampala at 20, highs of 27 and highs of 30 in a rainy Dar es Salaam this morning at 26. It's 14 and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 21 and lows of 12. And it's clear at 25 in Lagos, highs of 32 and lows of 25. 23 will be the low in Kinshasa. It's mostly sunny at 23.
Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
All right, traffic continues in most parts of the city this morning. We're looking at past 8:30, where it still is really heavy coming off Limuru Road today. It doesn't look pretty at all. United Nations Avenue then connecting with Limuru Road out into the city. Slow traffic. We're also looking at coming off of Kiambu Road. Not much of a problem today. It's been looking really good for most parts of the morning. All right, use the service lanes on the Thika Superhighway. Outer Ring, folks have been stuck for some time, and I know it's been really heavy traffic. Lots of sirens buzzing this morning. Not quite sure what's causing that. So it's a normal traffic hour that we're looking at right now. We'll look around 9 o'clock and see what happens then. Let's talk before then on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings done right. All right, the conversation continues with Bill Okero and Dr. Patrick Mwenda. We're talking about the Financial Inclusion Fund. So last week, was it last week? Yeah. The CS for cooperatives and MSMEs, the Honorable Simon Chelugui, who will be in charge of the Hustler Fund, released a statement explaining how it's going to work. So number one, he said the Hustlers Fund will lend to businesses at 8% a year, the lowest interest ever charged in Kenya. As a result, citizens will be able to start or boost their hustles without being crushed by predatory lenders, Shylocks, and over-the-roof interest rates. There will be 4 products in the Hustler Fund. 1, personal finance. 2, micro loan. 3, SMEs loan. 3 and 4, startup loan. In the personal finance product, it's between 500 shillings and 50,000 shillings and will be available for lending. It will be repaid in 14 days and the 8% interest will be calculated pro rata on a daily basis. The other revolutionary aspect of the fund is the savings component. Every time you borrow, 5% of that amount goes to a savings scheme where the money earns interest. In addition, for every 2 shillings saved, the government adds a bob. This, of course, will boost national savings and also provide those who borrow from the Hustlers Fund some cushion for a rainy day. The fund is working with the leading mobile network operators, Safaricom, Airtel, and Telcom, to deliver the funds. They are also setting up a joint call center that will disseminate information and respond to issues and questions of borrowers. So that's one. Let me take you to the financial inclusion regulations that were published by the National Treasury. On the part of who qualifies, who's eligible to borrow from the fund, further to the eligibility criteria in these regulations, an eligible person may qualify for a loan under these regulations. 1, where that person is a natural person, human being. 1, a loan, kiumbe.
A what? A what being?
Human.
A natural person.
Natural person as opposed to what exactly?
GMO.
As opposed to a company.
Okay.
Or another entity.
And by the way, a company by law, as in a limited company by law, is also a person.
It's a citizen, but it's not a natural person.
What about carry on?
Okay.
Yes.
Where that person is a natural person, for example, Charles Timothy, that person must be 18 years of age and above. That person must be a holder of a Kenyan national ID. They must fulfill other conditions as may be determined by the board. If you are not a natural human being, so you are a micro, small and medium enterprise, Sacco society, a chama, a group, a table banking group or any other association, then all your members must be 18 years of age. You must be registered by the relevant government institution. You must meet other conditions. Those are the conditions and eligibility criteria. Bilo, you're shaking your head.
No, you see, that's why I said this thing will not be as successful as Kenya Kwanza would think.
Why?
For the same reasons that they have given there. When you start, and I gave you a reason why all the other funds, by the way, have not succeeded. It's because of the requirements for registration, for eligibility, accessibility. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. The whole thing why people are ready to pay 30, 40, 50% interest on this other funds. It's because of the accessibility. I want to buy my mboga today, so I get it immediately. By afternoon, I have used it. Tomorrow, I can pay it back. But this one, you have to register. You must be this, you must be that, you must be this, you must be that. Of course, they try to argue that they're not. They'll probably change that. I have a feeling. I don't think they would really.
But it sounds very easy for me. For that natural human being, all you need is to be a Kenyan citizen. And if you're working with the telecom companies,
how do you demonstrate you're a Kenyan citizen on this phone?
If you're working with the telco companies, you are registered
Yeah.
with Safaricom, you're registered with Airtel Money, you're registered with Telcom. All right? So they've already done that due diligence and known that you are a natural human being with an ID and you're Kenyan.
Yeah, so that's why they said earlier there is no need for registration. In fact, I think the same minister, when he was giving the statement, he did make it very clear that there will be no requirement for registration as long as
as long as you have a mobile phone.
Yes, so I don't think they want to go through any technical things that would make things very difficult. But let me tell you, but in my view, the objective really of this fund was not just this 30,000 shillings. I think that's why people liked it. They thought it's going to support businesses.
Indeed.
You have your little studio here, you're setting up your TV, you need 1 million shillings. You can't access it from banks. And so people are thinking of businesses that's what you call businesses. People are not thinking of this individual. Once you personalize it and make it individual, apart from that requirement which is available on the phone, the registration and so forth, all the others you cannot demonstrate. You cannot demonstrate I'm going to buy it with Mboga. You cannot demonstrate I'm going to use it for my school fees. I'm going to give to my friend.
I think, Bilo, the messaging by Kenya Kwanza was addressing exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That for a very long time, people in this country have thought of business people as those ones who are doing big things, they are employing many people, and they've forgotten the hustler. That's why they kept saying, huyu mama mboga. Huyu jamaa wa boda boda, not hawa watu, not hii kampuni, huyu mtu. And so that's it's individual.
As easily accessible to the person who would naturally not be able to access
he
it.
Did, Patrick, they didn't explain
they didn't have
that category. There hasn't been much of a vacuum.
They're already sorted.
Not already sorted, but there isn't a vacuum. I mean, you'll have to compete with all the other funds that are already there. But let me tell you, Kipra, this government body, they did a study last year, you remember? They said 86% of all the small businesses in this country, they get their funding mainly through families and friends. They have no access to banks. And that is the reason why. And let me tell you, when you talk of small business, when you talk of company, it's because if you are now applying for a small tender in a company or in government, most probably you'll be asked to register, you must have a company. And the company doesn't mean those big companies. It means, but for you to go through all those things, the requirements are quite hard. So I think the issue really for me is, yes, you are going to give money to those people, but it's not going to achieve that objective of creating wealth, creating employment, giving startups, expanding businesses. That expansion of business by 20,000, in my view, it's not what people are looking for.
What would the intent behind all of this be? Because for me, it strikes me as a bit bizarre that those behind the creation of this idea, maybe some of the best economic minds in the country, standing behind this idea. So for you to see something, so plainly you've explained it in 3 minutes, and I've been able to say, okay, actually, it wouldn't lift somebody from poverty to wealth. This 30,000 shillings wouldn't be able to do that. 20,000 shillings wouldn't be able to do that unless it was a recurrent, continuous injection of this capital, right? Why wouldn't they see that, though? Or was there a different intent?
I think I said we are making a huge assumption, and this is a policy assumption. We assume these guys, they are not having a form of access. Now, let's go to the border guys. They're already organized, we know that. And they're moving money among themselves.
They are.
But they're not anywhere in the formal sector. Now, we also need to go back and look at history. It's not that we have not had funds that have had a huge impact. Now, there's one that is not being talked about here. You will reflect back to 2003, when President Kibaki, the late president, came into office. He created a fund. The fund that they were giving SMEs. And the fund was only 6 billion, which was channeled through mainstream banks. And I think that time the key actors was Equity. That time it was Building Society. Then Family Bank was coming up and KCB. Now, if you go and look at that fund, the government was giving like a line of credit to those particular selected banks at 4%, and they were on lending at 6%. Now, within no time, the banks had even created their own matching fund because it was a huge uptake and it has a huge impact. And it's one of the products that actually revolutionized the banking sector. Before then, We never even used to have these things we call unsecured loans. But the moment they moved into that particular space, because that time the conventional banking was SMEs are not bankable in terms of credit. So this particular fund, and we go back and trace it, it had a huge impact. Now, coming to the Hustler Fund and the other existing funds, is it the cheapest? No. Because you need to go and look at the products that Youth Fund is giving. You go and look at the products that Women Funds are giving, and the products with WESO Fund. For example, you go to most of the Youth Fund and Women Fund products, they do not charge interest per se. They charge a management fee, which is about 5%. Now, when they do the LPO financing, they don't charge interest. They take a commission of that product, and it's cumulatively is about 6.5%. So when you're saying this is be the cheapest product
at 8%,
yes, it's not factually true. It is not the cheapest product we've had for the country. But for me, I think the biggest challenge we need to, and the Hustler Fund has to speak to, is the competitiveness in that sector. Now, I don't imagine that the banks and the microfinance institutions and the finance institutions will sit back and watch government plug into their
turf
space. Because they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money from this one-off. So if we are going to compete in that space, then we must give something that is very competitive. Now, for me, and probably going to the question you had raised, when the hustlers were campaigning, that thing seemed to pick traction with the masses. But we need to go back and ask, what was the mindset of the voter at that point in time? You see, our campaigns are based on handouts and freebies. So to the hustlers, this was free money that was coming from.
It wasn't going to be a loan.
Yes, it wasn't going to be a loan.
It was supposed to be free money.
It was supposed to be free money.
It was supposed to be a grant.
Free. Yes. So to them,
that's how it started.
To them, the first words. Indeed,
yes, to them, and when they were voting because they are going to access free money. And around the campaign period, they're also getting free money. Now, one of the biggest challenges.
Wait. It was supposed to be a grant.
Yes.
Like money you receive and you don't even return. Not even a loan at zero interest.
Eric, that's what a grant is, a freebie.
It's a freebie.
Yes.
So to the hustlers, it was to be a freebie. And we need to see the challenge with WESO Fund is largely the political interest. Because WESO Fund is largely under the members of parliament within their constituencies, and they have a lot of influence. And they're the ones who go and distribute the checks. They actually participate in the distribution of the checks. Now, if you go to the village and you're giving people the check, and the MP is the one who is giving, to them, it's free money. They're not meant to be paid back. So in the mind of the hustler, hii ni pesa ya serikali ya bure. And if you look at the WESO Fund, actually the collection, they've said they've only been able to collect 2.65 billion out of the 7 billion, which is translated to about 40% of repayment for the last almost 11 years or 9 years or thereabout. So if you're going to cushion the Hustler Fund from that particular trap, then you have to divorce it from the political process. For me, there are windows that they can utilize to make the fund effective. And the way Mbilo is saying, to the real hustler that they have in mind, it may not make impact to the economy. Because part of the regulation, you also need to look at where they're talking about the qualitative aspect of the fund, where they're supposed to improve the quality of access to credit, the quality of pricing products and all that. The fund is also supposed to speak to that. It's also supposed to speak to the saving culture of the people. Yep. So you cannot have all these things packaged together in a single borrowing package.
It's too much.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Two, we need to go back and look at how have they structured this organization. Now, this organization is put on a board of 7 members. 4 of them, the majority, are representatives of the ministry. Yeah. You see? So these people are not these people are not coming there to bring competence in terms of skills and all that. They are nominated by the principal secretary to represent them, and they are the majority in that particular. Now look at the secretariat, how it's established. Actually, it's a bit of a departure from the other state corporations, because in this case, the board does not have automatic right to establish the secretariat. They will need to nominate people to be appointed By the principals, by the PS actually.
They nominate
by the
people
CS.
who will then be
appointed by the CS.
Yeah, whose position will be determined by the PS.
CS.
The CS.
The CS, the cabinet secretary.
For cooperative and SMEs.
Minister.
Yes.
Okay.
But is that different from the other ministries?
No, in state corporations, the people are employees of the board. So apart from probably the CEO who is nominated and then recruited or nominated by the CS.
So this one says everybody else, not just the CEO.
The secretariat, yes. So the board will nominate people who won't be appointed by the CS. So that's a bit of a unique departure. But also there's something.
Is that a good or a bad departure?
It's a bad because now technically you put these people under. You see, the CS is a political appointee.
So the CS puts people into the board, and then tells the board, "Give me names of the people that I shall appoint."
Yes.
So essentially, the CS is deciding everything.
Yes. And then there's something they have not cured about the Women and Youth Fund. You see, the CEOs of these particular institutions, the Women Fund, the Youth Fund, and the West Fund, are not accounting officers. Now, in government, that means a lot of things.
So who is the accounting officer?
An accounting officer is the person who is in charge, has full authority over the day-to-day administration of the fund. Now, the regulations are conspicuously silent of whether the CEO will be the accounting officer. So they've not declared. And normally when we have state corporations, the CEO is exclusively declared to be the accounting officer. Now, here they'll be conveniently silent, the same way with the other funds. So if you're not declared the accounting...
Just hold it.
Yes.
Just explain. We are informed that PSs are accounting officers.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Now, the accounting officer in law, in government, you are the person who is in charge of the resources of that institution.
Meaning?
So meaning that all procurement and any contract and any money that moves out of that institution is with your signatory. So money cannot move out without your signature. So that's an accounting officer. Now, in government, this has to be exclusively determined in the law. Now, if you go to the Youth Fund and the Women Fund, the CEOs are not the accounting officer. Now, they depend on the PS. You see? So you become now like an AIE holder. So if the law has not exclusively
What's an AIE holder?
Authority to incur expenditure. It means that you're given
there's a
particular
limit.
budget line by the PS.
And there's a law that allows you to be able to expend this money.
Yeah, no, you are now dependent. If you're not the accounting officer,
Yes.
it means that the accounting officer is the PS.
Yes.
So you are directly under the control.
So who gives you this authority to...
Law.
The
The law
gives-
needs to exclusively
give you
determine
the-
and declare you as an accounting officer.
And that is what gives you now the authority to expend.
To be in charge of all the resources of that particular department. So what this means is, if we go ahead with this fund without exclusively determining the CEO of the fund to be the accounting officer, what it means that is they will still be dependent on the PS for the purpose of spending that particular.
So Wendy, let me ask you: it doesn't matter to the hustlers, to the disbursement of the fund, the existence of a board and who is an authority? Those things are not important. And actually, the moment they go in that route, then it creates more problems, because this thing, in my view, the reason why I find this fund completely, being relevant is this money. All the government needed to do is give it to Fuliza.
Give it to Safaricom and tell Safaricom.
Yes.
On
Disburse
land.
it the same way you're disbursing.
Yeah.
But you form a board, you create all those things and institutions. Nobody's going to go there. Nobody's going to deal with them. Accountability, how they will use the money. The moment you create those institutions, it means part of that 50 billion.
It's going to go
to it goes to that administration. They have already indicated how much percentage, but you might find difficulty in getting the money released. Then it comes to the issue of treasury has no money, and this is why they have removed the cap. This morning you said in the news they are saying the 50 billion they're no longer mentioning. They said it to be determined by Parliament.
Yes.
They can say, okay, this year we are putting only 30 billion because of lack of funding. So for me, this 50,000 shillings, they should have just left it
50 billion.
50 billion shillings. They should just give it the 50,000 cap. They should just give this money to one of these platforms and let it run with only one specification,
As
that
a
instead
lender.
of
And let it run as a lender.
let them just, because last year Uhuru Kenyatta, he launched another fund.
Credit
It's
guarantee
called
scheme.
Biashara Kenya Fund. You remember?
Yeah.
Yes.
Biashara Kenya Fund is at 6%, and it was 2.5 billion.
Yeah.
The uptake is negligible if you look at what has happened. The same year, 2020, Uhuru also launched another one called Credit Guarantee Scheme, a 12 billion shilling fund, where the government will guarantee 25% of any lending to small and micro enterprises by banks.
Yeah.
As at last month, I saw the reporting about 3-4 billion is what the uptake has been in 3 years. So in all of these things, you find the challenge has been, one, the eligibility requirements, and two, the other requirements, for registration, for accessibility is difficult. This is why people are not able to access. In this thing, let me tell you, my argument has been, and I've written extensively on this the last 2-3 months, this fund should have been a grant. It should not have been a loan, absolutely. Because the most developed countries in the world, like US, they have grants. US has got grants of up to 75,000 for kiosks. And those small businesses, farms on the streets and so forth, they give those kind of grants. If you go to countries in Europe, they give 100% guarantee to loans up to now, especially after COVID. Several countries, France and Switzerland, many of them, they give 100% guarantee. If you take a loan, a small business, and the banks give you the money, the government will guarantee. Up to 100%. Some countries up to 60-70%. But my argument is, why can't the government simply, because the biggest challenge facing this small and micro enterprises, this is where 80% of Kenyans are in terms of employment and so forth. These are the people you find in all those buildings in town, with small offices, photocopying guys, running a small office, hair salon. These are people who need 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 500. These are the people who need support. These are the people who cannot access money from banks because the banks are biased. It's not because of any other reason, by the way. If you look at the CBK report last year, they said 20% of the total lending by all the banks in Kenya went to SMEs, 20%, about 630 billion, 640 billion is what SMEs borrowed, 20%. But at the same time, the non-performing loans, out of the total portfolio, the total non-performing loans for small is also around 20%. In other words, in fact, they are the most compliant, according to the CBK, in terms of, because of the strict requirements for you to access money if you are a small. And let me tell you, in my view, governments are the ones that are making people poor in Africa. Because in this country and others in Africa, we have assets, but we cannot collateralize our assets. We cannot use them as security. You have land in Kakamega, you have land in Busia, you have land in Mandera. You have no security, it has no title. If it has issues that can never be resolved, if there's small... I'm telling you, the Western countries, the reason why these guys talk about those, GDPs and so forth, every inch of that country can be used as a collateral.
As a collateral for something.
You have a serious problem in this town alone. Forget about going anywhere. To get your property, to use it as a collateral in a bank is a nightmare. But you go to other countries, you use your furniture in your room. If you use your studio, this can be used as a collateral to access funding in any country in the West. Everything you use, your car, try to get money through your logbook now in a bank in Kenya. Tell them you want to take a small taxi, loan. You want to buy a taxi, a rider, yeah? I want to take 500,000. Go to a bank and see whether they'll give you. You'll struggle. But look, the reason why people go to the Shylocks is because I just put a logbook and collect the money. This is why people are going into these things, because of the accessibility. There, it's because of the bias. The banks simply have that mentality that if you're small, you don't deserve it. Even the free money, let me give you, I'll finish on this. If Charles, even the free money.
Yes.
If you are big, you get free money. If you run some of the largest corporations in this country, they get free money through what they call capital allowances. You get tax incentives. If you are not doing very well, you get a bailout, whether you're a KQ or a Kenya Pipeline or a Kenya Power or whatever company, even if it's owned by state only in a certain fraction. You get bailouts, you get assistance, you get funding of so many types. But if you are small, to be given 50,000, it's a big deal.
You're already small and struggling.
It's a big deal. The president would go on media and say, "There's no free money, my friend." But I have my 10,000 acres of tea. I want fertilizer. I'm giving subsidy, 3,000 shillings. I'm giving subsidy. That's free money. But if you run your little shoe shine, 10,000 shillings is a big deal. And you're running away with 10,000 shillings. There's no free money. So I think it's misplaced. I really think it's totally misplaced.
Let's go into the news, and then we come back and continue this conversation for just a couple of more minutes as then we wind up and hear. So what is it that we should expect to get from this fund? What is it that people should demand from the government? There are promises that were made. The Hustler Fund is about to be launched. the regulations are out, the information is out, there's some disconnect that is appearing from what they said and what they're saying now, from what they promised and what they're about to deliver. Keep it here for more conversations. Dr. Patrick Mwinde, economist, and Bill Okero, also an economist and financial expert, former chair of the Senate Finance and Budget Committee, are our guests this morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Kenya National Examination Council has deployed 2 choppers to distribute Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Primary School Education Assessment exam papers in 4 sub-counties in Garissa County. The exam papers had to be flown to the areas due to impassable roads occasioned by the floods from the recent rains. Addressing the press after witnessing the opening of the examination container, County Commissioner Boaz Cherotich said that the choppers will also be used to deliver the examination papers to insecurity-prone sub-counties bordering Somalia. The affected sub-counties are Balambala, Liboi, Fafi, Hulugo and Bodai. Cherotich assured the centre managers, supervisors and candidates that all the 204 KCPE and 260 KPSEA examination centres across the county will be secured during the examination period. In Garissa, a total of 8,994 candidates, that is 5,239 boys and 3,755 girls, are sitting for the KPSEA, while a total of 9,477 candidates, that is 5,555 boys and 3,892 girls, are sitting for the KCPE exams. Nationally, a total of 2.5 million candidates, both KCPE and KPSEA, are sitting for the examination. Now, the government has urged politicians and church leaders to stop politicizing the maize issue. Head of Public Service Felix Koskei urged maize farmers from the North Rift region to take advantage of the good prices being offered to sell their produce. He stated that farmers are holding maize in anticipation for higher prices, thus creating a deficit of about 10 million bags, maintaining that farmers should clear their stock so that when the government decides to import maize, no farmer will be affected. The Chief of Staff noted that it is true that last season farmers incurred high production due to increase in fertilizer prices, adding that it should not be the main reason to hoard maize, yet the produce is scarce. Farm gate prices have increased in the last weeks, with the 90 kg bag retailing at 5,000 shillings. He assured farmers that the Kenya Kwanza government will work around the clock to ensure farmers get subsidized fertilizers on time to increase food production. He called upon politicians and church leaders to stop politicizing the maize issue. And Kasese MP Julius Ruto has said that the order by Trade CS Moses Kuria asking farmers to sell their produce within 72 hours may have a big impact on the agricultural sector. Speaking in Eldoret, Ruto said that the people may use the order to harass farmers by buying maize at a price that will not benefit the farmer. He urged the CS to be considerate of the farmers and issues that they are raising.
It's my wish to ask the CS for Trade, Honorable Moses Kuria, to be considerate. He holds a serious docket in government where the policy direction is provided, and the policy direction always should be Kenya for Kenyans. And the policy on importation is a situation where, in my own understanding as a leader, a government is trying to secure the challenge that the country would be facing in terms of starvation and lack of supply of sufficient food in future. But again, it has a serious obligation again to look at our own local production.
He is now asking Kuria to listen to farmers who have maize stored in their warehouses.
Please listen to the voice of farmers. These are the people who voted this government overwhelmingly, knowing that the aspect and the agenda of the manifesto bottom up is where a farmer is. As we talk now, farmer is in the bottom. Over a decade period that has gone, policies have been met that has hindered farmers so much. It has hurted farmers. Remember the other day when the importation were allowed during such period, and the millers and the traders used the opportunity to bring in the cheap maize and fill their stores.
Now, Lamu County Governor Issa Timami has reiterated his administration's commitment towards the delivery of quality health care in the archipelago. Governor Timami says his administration will improve healthcare services by employing professional health workers at both basic and comprehensive health centers in the coastal county. He said on the top of priorities of his administration is to guarantee good health for the people of the coastal county. Timami says that the King Fahd County Referral Hospital and Father Witu and Beketoni Sub-County Hospitals are among several health facilities in the archipelago set for the upgrade. He spoke to the press on the sidelines of the celebrations of the 20th edition of Lamu Cultural Festival. I'm Dennis Asseto. Good morning.
The Spice Newswire is brought to you by Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. Go ahead and get yours today. It's your time.
At a few minutes after 9 o'clock, traffic still continues in many parts of the city. It's looking much better, though, as it's coming off of Outer Ring, where I had that problem before. For the first time in a very long time, Kiambu Road has not had the perennial back-to-back headache-inducing traffic that we've seen every morning. The Thika Superhighway, however, is totally different, as is Limuru Road that's coming off of United Nations Avenue well into Muthaiga and all these other fun places. So there is a lot of traffic there. Coming out of Western's not too bad. As you're approaching that mall area, though, it's going to pick up a little bit as you're getting into the city. Coming off Langata Road as well, we saw some traffic. James Gishoro is also looking pretty busy for going back towards that Lavington area. That's coming off Gong Road and, Gitanga Road and all of this, Naivasha Road. But we should be able to be out of it without too much pain. Muranga Road then connecting to Kipande and other in the middle of the city, also seeing some traffic, but that should fizzle out in no time. Just in case, speak to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
it's
your
7
day.
after 9. Good morning. We continue the conversation with Bill Okero and Dr. Patrick Mwinde. We are talking about the Financial Inclusion Fund, a.k.a. the Hustler Fund. This watch, the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, are the things that it does. It tells you the time you need to sleep, when you need to wake up, your energy levels. CT tells you also your depression levels and all. That's what you said.
Nope.
Oh, is the depression too big that it cannot see?
No. This guy's getting all psychological on me here.
It gives you the happiness levels.
Stress levels. Sleeping patterns. Help you count steps. What?
Depression.
The next thing is going to say that the watch can be a marriage counselor. No.
Stress, depression. It can't.
That's one of the things you said last week.
I cannot be held accountable for the things you hear. I cannot be accountable for the things I say. Okay, now what I said was this particular watch helps you with the following. It can measure your heartbeat.
See, that's marriage counseling.
Okay. That's marriage counseling. Okay. Sleeping patterns. Okay. These people who wake up in the middle of the night with a start and sweating. Those ones, it can measure. Okay. Stress levels Okay, just say.
Marriage counseling.
Marriage counseling, okay. Okay, navigating your path as you walk, telling you, again, that's still marriage counseling.
That's maps.
You know, if everything I say equals marriage counseling, then indeed,
so be it.
It is marriage counseling.
So the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro is a marriage counselor. Ukivaa hii uko sawa.
Mambo yako yote
yuko sawa.
Sorted.
Tell us the proverb, City.
Proverb. Hey, people. Right. So let me just turn the pages of my book so that I get it accurately. The man on his feet comes for the share of the man sitting down.
The man on his feet comes for a share of the man sitting down.
Yes.
Indeed. Good one from Guinea.
If you sit and others are up and about and moving and walking, that share that you have when you're sitting, be informed. It will be taken.
It will go. Dr. Mwinde, as we're going to the break, Bilo was very, very serious on this and saying this Hustler Fund should have been a what? A grant. Should have been free money, not loan with interest and all. Do you agree with him?
Not absolutely. Because one, this government money. And if we are spending government money, there's the other side of, I think, what the Hustler Fund they're also talking about. And they're talking about stimulating the economy and speaking about the revenue side of the economy. So we are spending 50 billion. In a way, this should be seen as an investment. But also, I have a feeling that we need to turn it to be a revolving fund that is able to take a life of its own and grow on its own and expand.
Okay.
Because in as much as we are allocating taxpayers' money into this, then we need to also ask on the other side of the equation, where does the money come from? And that's why I referred back to the 6 billion fund that was created by the former President Kibaki. If you look at the impact that fund had into the economy and the explosion with the SME subsector and the subsequent employment levels and all that, because hustlers also need to solve the problem of unemployment. And unemployment is not just about the job. We also need to think about the quality of the job. So that this fund leaders to create not only jobs, but also quality jobs. And that's why I'm feeling there's a component they proposed there, the on-lending, which the commercial bank are supposed to access, probably at a better competitive interest rate and on lend. So for me, this fund can be we call them segregated and create different products targeting different components of the economy. Number one, if we need to put a good fund on the actual SMEs, these are the SMEs that have a huge turnover that can employ maybe 50, 100 people. We need to create a window for them to be able to access this particular fund. Because these guys who create jobs, they are already within the tax system, so you know who they are. You can trace them, and when they make money, you also will be able to get them to pay the taxes. But also, as we target these hustlers, assuming now you are looking at the Mama Mboka down there, now the challenge we have had for so many years is that these guys are nowhere in the financial economic system. Now, are they moving money? Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Because if you go to Kikomba and all these Malikiti, you go to Mombasa, Kongowea, and all these places, these guys are moving a lot of cash.
Yep.
But they are nowhere in the financial system. So if this fund, it can be a double-edged strategy where you give them access to funding, but also you start finding a way of moving them in the formal side of the economy. Because you need to generate money to pay our loans, you need to pay government bills, you need also to invest back in the infrastructure. So if we make it a perpetual free grant, And also, it's like we keep on pushing the notion that there's some free money somewhere. Okay? The reality right now is there's a problem. But we cannot continue to enhance the problem through the fund.
Sure.
So if you're using the fund, let's use the fund to find a solution. And a solution to moving these people from the informal sector to the formal sector. It cannot be right for an economy of Kenya size and structure, to be talking about 83% informal. Informal can never be a strategy for economic growth. And if we don't solve that problem, and we are creating this fund, let's create funds that move us to the formal side of the economy.
And
so we're
moving to the formal side of the economy, essentially, moving to the formal side of the economy essentially is what? Being banked, being taxed,
yes,
and being recognized by, the regulatory authorities that this business exists.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're
essentially
talking about.
Being in the system.
Yes.
Right.
So that I'm saying, when it can be a double strategy for the purpose of the government, because you see, for all these years we've grown in the formal sector. But the challenge with the informal sector, one, it's very hard to regulate them. And part of the reason why the ASLA fund will have a challenge of identifying the actual beneficiary is because they're informal.
How do you then do this? And this is the thing, that one of the ways to do, if you're working in a formal, in the formal sector, of course, the structure within which you work then, of course, almost guarantees that you will be, number one, found and regulated.
Yes.
This other side of the divide is all over the place. And I think for a lot of people, and maybe that could be the struggle, how do you do that? The thousands of people who are working in informal structure, like we talked about, the person who's selling vegetables, the person who has a polishing stand, the person who how do you start to find all of these people and put them together? Because essentially that is the conversation we're having. We could have a conversation where we talk about, right, okay, so there's a politicized conversation whereby there was a promise that was made to people whereby there's some free money coming your way. But the truth of the matter, maybe the underbelly of this conversation truly is that you have an unregulated number of businesses that could contribute significantly to the country's economy. But that's not happening because we cannot find them.
Yes.
I mean, okay, we know they're there, but literally we cannot find them.
Yeah, you remember the statistics Bill gave? It said we have 7.5 estimated MSEs in Kenya is 7.56 million. The ones that are registered, if you go to the KMA website, they say it's about 1.5. Now, these guys operate in the darkness in terms of the economy speak. And that's what I'm saying. If you're using the ASLA fund, one, they'll be the needy people who need that free money. They are there in the economy, so we cannot wish them away. But let's create products that help us, one, to help the fund continue to expand. And who is this group of people? They're the people who are already in a formal kind of setup that cannot probably access the funding in banks, or it is expensive for them to access that funding. For example, you can go to SME, the one that are doing a turnover of, say, 50 million or 100 million, and then go to the bank and they borrow at 15% or 16%. Now, if you're giving them a loan at 6%, that's a huge injection of capital to them. And it has a lot of impact to them, because now the tax, the interest depreciation is a big product for them. Now, these guys will help you to grow the fund. You can also find those other small SMEs, and this is the challenge now the ASLA fund will also have, is because, one, they are okay operating in the darkness. You see?
I mean,
so you're giving them this fund, and you're telling them, we want to bring you on the light. And on the light means that you need to start knowing your income. You need to start filing your tax returns. You need to tell us how much you made and how much you see. And this is where you remember I think there was the 1.5 tax that was being targeted to this kind of group businesses, and it brought a lot of problems. So this is a challenge the fund is going to experience, because now we give us the money, then you make us known, you make us you bring us to the light of KRA, and we don't want that. So this is a competition they're going to have. But in terms of policy level, you must find a way of moving people from the informal. You cannot run a country with 85%.
That's all good, but can you find another way in just balancing the same? The same thing that Bill was saying, big investors are given free money by government.
Yes.
Whether you call it investment deduction, allowance, whatever we call it, there's going to be some rebate here because you're doing business in the country. And it runs in the tunes of millions of shillings. The person who is that Mamamboga is also doing business in the country. Now you're supporting them. Can't you find a way of giving them a rebate? It can be a condition.
You can. You see, apart from the financial support, there are 9 financial barriers to small businesses. Huge. And this is one of the things that the president spoke to when he was campaigning. That they will make Kazi ni Kazi. That story of Kazi ni Kazi came from that. That they will allow businesses to thrive without a lot of regulatory restrictions. And this is and so if you want to start your small M-Pesa shop in Nairobi now, the amount of inspections you go through, you know, the NEMAs and the city councils and the health and the what, and you pay money for different licenses. You try opening a small business in Nairobi. And this happens everywhere. So there are a lot of challenges which the government can remove. Then you come to taxation. The environment is so unattractive, even to the big businesses, that many big businesses have relocated to other countries in the region. So the small ones, you are giving them the same tax environment, you know, which makes it, again, very difficult. You know, you earn $1 million shillings from your little saloon, and the government wants 30% of that. And the 30% is the highest. Where the president was in Korea, the government, by law, and this is something we've been asking government to do, Central Bank is so proud to announce every year that the banks have made so much profit. This year, for example, 9 months, this week, you know, the banks have made 33 billion, 30 billion, 36 billion, 9 months only.
In just 9
By
months.
the time they finish the year, it will be clocking 40 billion. Government is very proud to announce that. But they don't ask the bank, you're a business. You want a license? Yes, okay. Give 30% of all your loans to SMEs by law. If you can't do, sorry, I can't give you a license. You want a license here, give 20% of all your money to agriculture. Invest. I mean, unless the government really, through policy, directs people to, you know, where they can invest in terms of the banks and so forth. So if you go to where he was in Korea, you cannot just compare Korea to us because by policy they're different. For example, 45% of all their lendings by their banks go to SMEs. Actually, in Asia, minimum 35% of the money, any bank, you must give it to SMEs.
By policy.
And they have banks for the government, like Korea, the Industrial Bank of South Korea. It gives up to 90% of their lending is for SMEs. Here we set up these things once upon a time. We had ICDC. It was funding the big hotels and the big businesses and the big shops. They were given equity, through equity participation, through asset financing, through whatever. You know, they were financed. All these tycoons here now, they were financed through government money. You're saying there's no free money. There's all free money. There was AFC to assist finance agriculture. If you were to start a business. But today it's only the big farms and the big guys who are getting access to that money. There is Industrial Development Bank. You try to, so the big businesses have opportunities. But small businesses,
the medium-sized
they
businesses,
don't. And the other countries are giving small businesses other ways of support through reduction of taxes, give them low levels of taxes. Why must I pay the same 30%? My business is $1 million shillings income, profit, or 5 million, 10 million shillings. And another guy is running 100 billion, I pay the same 30%. And even our tax, by the way, it's a disincentive because it's the highest in the region. Our corporation tax of 30% is higher than all the other countries in Africa. South Africa, one of the richest, is 28%. Indeed. The closest that come to us is like Ghana, 25%. Egypt, a powerhouse now in Commerce, is 22%. Other countries don't even talk about it. The same thing with other payee taxes. So we, as a government, our problem is we want to take all the money and then determine what we want to do. What we want to do is always those roads. And you don't want
even those have a problem.
Even those have a problem. So when you are losing, as a president, you stand up and you say, we are losing 2 billion daily to crooks. It's not a big deal.
So question.
But when you are giving 2 million to this
to
poor,
the small person,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So then, very plainly, the question is on this hustler fund, as we see unraveling, the way in which it is, do we bank on it or give up on it?
Bank on it in the sense it's not going to turn around the economy, or it's not going to change the lives of, you know, all those people who are looking for access to funding in the SMEs. But you know, it's just as well. Let them have it. But I don't think, in my view, I'm just looking at the figures here published in today's. M-Shwari alone has 31.9 million customers. This is on your papers. You didn't write it. Fuliza has 17.1 million customers. Look at that. And the amount of loans, the amount of loans they have disbursed. M-Shwari alone, 181 million loans. I mean, and
million loans. We're not talking about million shillings.
No, loans.
Yes,
no, the amount of shillings is hundreds of billions.
Billions.
Yeah.
It's like you take today, tomorrow you pay back. Next week you take that evening. It's non-stop. So if you want to do this, in my view, I think it was placed as a government. You don't need to compete with these guys. Let these guys do. Give them some support. Give them some money. Tell them, okay, put in this into your whatever 50 every year. I give you 50 billion. Put it in your and give it out. But reduce on condition you reduce your charge rates to the same way they did the other day. But let me focus on other things. How to assist this guy open his own studio with 5 million. Competitively, there are many areas where the government needs to support. In farming, agriculture is 80% of the country. Are they getting any loans? Their lands is not collateral. They cannot be used. You cannot work on lands ministry to make things easy for people so that we can all collateralize our assets and use them. Why is it difficult for NTSA, these guys who look after logbooks? Sometimes you wait, you buy a car, you might wait for a year before your logbook comes out and you can't use it easily. So, I mean, there are many ways in which you can assist things to make people access funding. But, in my view, there are a lot of things the government can do, really, instead of just standing up, giving you 50 billion. It's a big deal now. We're going to make a party.
There are better things for the government to do.
A party out of it.
Probably what Biro Kello is saying, we need to get this very correct. Now, we said there's a need. But the question is, how then do we implement this fund? Now, we are saying the commercial bank, the financial institutions are already experts in it. So let's give them a line of credit and let's give them access at a discounted rate, probably 1.5 or 2%. Then give them the window to grant withdrawn between maybe 4 and 8% what they have capped based on the customer ability. Now, in a market economy like ours, the government has no business doing business where the market is already effective. So we know who we are targeting. We do not have the platform, we do not have the infrastructure, we do not have the ability to compete.
Because did I hear you say that the money should be given to financial institutions?
Yes, they have the competence.
They do have the competence, but there's a big but here. Are they not going to apply the same rules and regulations that they normally apply?
No, you see, if you're giving them the government component gets certain preferential because you're giving out the conditions.
You come with the conditions.
Under which they need to loan that money. And that's what I'm saying. If you look at the 6 billion I've kept on talking about, it is a huge impact. Because you see now you're creating a state corporation to go and compete.
Give me an example of where this has worked and where, even within our country, where the government has put money in the banking system, the commercial banking system, and how it has been rolled out successfully.
The
6 billion that Kibaki gave is actually the one that built Equity Bank, the Family Bank. They actually moved a huge component. And you see, if you look at like even the banks now are even creating products to actually in anticipation of this product to compete. I think it's 2 weeks ago when KCB said they're putting about 250 billion and they're targeting that space of women groups. So you see, if you have a state corporation that will have to deal with the Public Financial Management Act, the Procurement Act, and they're competing in this space where the private sector is already very effective. Because, and I think Bilokelo has kept on saying, the problem with these guys is not ability to pay. They are paying up to 20%, they are paying up to 30%. Because the microfinance institution are already giving them money, and they give them at 25% or even 30%.
Yes, they do.
So they are doing that. So you are giving them now this particular capitation of government. You now allow the bank conditions now on how they lend.
So you're saying that this will ease accessibility?
Already, let me tell you, from the time we were kids, these banks receive money from governments.
Yes, they have.
To lend, on lend.
Yes.
Yeah, that's normal. And they don't receive from governments of that country. They receive from World Bank, IFC, so many. They're getting it daily. They're getting money. They're told this money is for SMEs. We're giving you $2 billion. they get it at very, very concessional rate of 1%, but of course then they give it the way they want. Yeah. But that's workable. That's workable. I think what we were saying is in terms of efficiency, it would be better for government to take that kind of an arrangement than to start forming a board to start running
creating a whole new entity.
This Fuliza and these things are so successful. You can now see they're saying it's expanding to DRC, Ghana, Ethiopia, Tanzania. All those
it's working.
I'm in agreement completely. You see, the question I am raising here is yes. When you put it into the formal system, you then come against the headwinds of the formality that these institutions have. Now, when I asked for the example...
Condition, he said conditional.
Yes.
The government will come with their own.
I agree.
Yeah.
Government always says that. Do the banks comply? And I'm asking, the example where they have complied with it. You see, if it's given to, say, a specific financial institution like agricultural finance in the days when it existed, or it was given to ICDC, already the conditions were understood. But you're talking about the commercial banking sector. Do we have examples where money has been given and the concessionary rate that you're talking about, stipulated by the government, has been adhered to?
2013. Okay.
I talked about the 2003 $6 billion. And it was a huge impact.
Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company.
What the government did was to pre-qualify financial institutions. And what they do, there are two things that happen. One, once you give them the seed capital, they are likely going to create also a product that is also related to that, because they also competed in that space. And that's what happened. Like in 2013, once they finished the grant from, 2003, once they finished the grant from government, the 6 billion, they actually created a product that was around 8%, most of the banks. So you could actually go there and they tell you the government kitty is over, but now we have ours,
we have
which
a
is
product.
8%. You see, to the borrower and to the person who is in business, if their business is moving money, they have no problem. The problem is the conditions for them to access that money. If I go to Fuliza in the morning, I go and shop, I find a product worth 6,000. I don't have the cash. What do? I Fuliza and I pay immediately and I go. You see, if the banks have these products, and you see now it helps you, one, to know, to bring these guys into a formality. Two, it removes the notion that this is government money, because I'm going to a financial institution. So that helps you a lot in terms of the repayment and the compliance. And that's why I'm giving the statistics of Weso Fund. If I pick a check and the check is from the member of parliament, in my mind, it's government money. And government money is free money. So if you put them through the form of financial system at good rates, because what we need now, the government need to do is to regulate how this money is spent. But also the 2%, the line of credit I'm talking about, either 1.5% or 2%, it helps you to grow the kitty so that you are not perpetually beheld
sinking
to keep
money into it,
putting money in it.
28
so allow the
minutes
fund to grow. Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Asanteni sana for this conversation. Let's see what they launch and what they say. We'll invite you again to come and we review. After 30 days, after the public comes out, hii pesa iko wapi? Or pesa imekuja inasaidia. But Dr. Patrick Mwinde and Bill Okero, asanteni sana for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Let's take a break. At 28 to 10, we'll continue the conversation. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and what the theme for this year is and what's happening around the country. Remember, if you want to know more about the 265 Elma apartments by Centum Real Estate that are being developed in Thika Superhighway, just 3 kilometers off Thika Superhighway on Mwiki Road in Kasarani. It's a gated community, 3 blocks with a rooftop where you can relax, you can play some mini soccer, you can have tennis. There's a green courtyard, convenience store there, power backup 24/7. There's 24/7 water access. And they're basically saying if you're currently paying rent between 20,000 and 60,000 shillings, then my friend, just look at this and see as your way of owning a home. Pay rent here, not as rent, but as an investment. Start with only 200,000 shillings as your down payment and then get towards home ownership. To find out more, text the word ELMER, ELMER, to 22365.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, so looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. Light rain will continue later on in the day. It'll go to highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Nakuru at 19. At 18, it's mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 22 and lows of 13. And we'll see highs of 24 in a cloudy Eldoret at 18. All right, into Mombasa, it's raining in some parts at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And we'll see lows of 26 in a mostly sunny Malindi right now at 29. All right, looking at other parts of the country, Kisumu, light rain at 23, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and it'll go to highs of 27 in Kakamega, where it's partly sunny at 24. Looking out into a partly sunny Kampala, it'll go to highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 30 in a partly sunny Dar es Salaam at 28. It's 16 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 13, and Lagos is cloudy at 25. It'll go to highs of 32. Out into Kinshasa, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23, while Beijing on Monday afternoon is sunny at 12. It'll go to highs of 13 and lows of -4. And we're looking at cloudy conditions in Paris at 9, highs of 11 and lows of 5. And it's 8 degrees and cloudy in London, highs of 11 and lows of 6. 13 will be the high in London, where Sunday night is still clear at 12. It'll come down to lows of 2.
London Mulwa DJ Absolute. When the gang is together.
Got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Eh?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on.
Yeah. A little bit of traffic still continues on Gongru this morning, getting into the city. Still looking a little bit heavy on Mombasa Road, and that is just after the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, going out into that junction at Haile Selassie. Lunga Lunga is still pretty busy as it is on Jogo Road, and we're coming out of traffic hour according to the clock, but the situation on the road might be different. Thika Superhighway has been heavy with traffic today, and looks like it's not ending anytime soon. Just when we thought we would celebrate Kiambu Road, we're seeing some traffic that's building up there. In and outbound traffic still is right now starting to build up. All right, through the morning, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, and let's keep things moving as much as possible this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
On the 25th of November, we start counting 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This is a day that's commemorated worldwide, promoted largely by the United Nations. UN Women particularly, very, very big on this. Right, Ndu? And on Friday, we had a conversation about fighting FGM and the commitments that the government has made, and also what's happening in the country in the fight against FGM. Now, let's talk about the Red Card campaign, implementing policies against gender-based violence. And joining us now in the studio is Dr. Jibril Diallo. He's the president and CEO of the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, Inc., that is ARDN. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Dr. Diallo.
Thank you very much.
From what nationality? What nationality are you?
My country of origin is Senegal, but my organization is headquartered in New York City.
Right. Tell us about the organization, the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network.
The African Renaissance and Diaspora Network is an international organization which has got the consultative status with the United Nations. and recognized by the U.S. government. And it has been mandated to help to popularize the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa and in the diaspora. So ARDN, its name, is present in about 80 countries of Africa and the diaspora.
80 in Africa and the diaspora.
80,
Yes.
in Africa and in the diaspora.
There's the campaign, the Red Card campaign. Now introduce us to the Red Card campaign.
Well, for many of your listeners, when you talk about Sustainable Development Goals, when you talk about SDGs, it's like an alphabet soup. So that to the woman and the man of the street, it does not relate to the me. So that we need to find ways in which we can grab the attention of the public in order to deal with issues of major concern. The Declaration of the Human Rights Declaration of 1948 said that all human beings are born equal, born free and dignity. But then 2023 will be the year when you will have the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But until now, women are not enjoying fully their rights. So that the idea of the Red Card campaign came about in order to use the convening powers of sports and culture in order to bridge this gap between women and men. I was very happy that Kenya was one of the, if not the only country that I know of, which has, during the New York Marathon, the two winners were from one country. And then when Kenya was celebrating them, it didn't matter which ethnic group a Kenyan belonged to. It didn't matter what the economic status it was. Everybody was behind the two winners. So we want to make sure that we use that convening power in order to give a red card to all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls. Because in the game of football, as you know, when you give the red card to a player, then that player has done a very serious infringement of the rules of football, and the player is thrown off the field.
Right.
For us, the red card means that any kind of violation of society's rules vis-a-vis women and girls. And we are doing it not alone, in partnership with the United Nations, in partnership with FIFA itself, so that we got together organizations that are normally not used to working together to make sure that we say no to all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls.
It was necessary. I mean, just taking the analogy of the red card, because by the time a player on the field is shown a red card, things would appear to have gone bad. You have violated a rule, and according to the referee, they've said, look, we cannot, because of this thing that you have done, we cannot allow you to continue to play.
Exactly.
At least not for some time.
Right.
But for this now that we're looking and using that same analogy, have things gotten to the point whereby such an intervention then, whereby you say, do not play anymore, then needed to be invited?
Violence against women is today a global pandemic. 1 woman out of 3 has indicated that she has experienced sexual or physical violence in her lifetime. And 1/3 of the women have had that kind of experience as well in terms of intimate partner violence. So that it's a pandemic that needs to be addressed. And the idea of the red card is really to try and federate the efforts which are being made, because it's not something that would be like a bushfire kind of effect, come and launch the campaign and then leave. No, try to see what the left hand is doing in order to make sure that the right hand is aware of it. And then when the left hand and the right hand are working together, that makes 2 and 2 become 5 rather than 4 when it comes to fighting violence against women and girls. It's a pandemic. is so serious. No country in the world treats its women as well as it does its men. That's the United Nations says that. I was, at one point in my life, Director of Communications of the United Nations Development Program based in New York. And the Human Development Report of UNDP said that no country in the world treats its women as well as it does its men. So we've got to fight the apartheid of gender as forcefully as we fought apartheid in South Africa.
When you say red card, I know it's red card against gender-based violence. Who do you want to issue a red card to? And from what pitch do you want them to get out?
Well, number one, when you have the red card, the idea of the red card is to make sure that countries are really made aware of this global pandemic, and that we make sure also that one important constituency is an ally in this, that is men. We're not saying that all men are committing acts of violence against women. But when you look at violence against women and girls, the great majority of the violence comes from men. So that we need to make sure that men become allies also in this effort. That's why about just over a week ago, I was part of the National Organizing Committee of the Second African Union Conference, hosted by the current chair of the African Union, President Macky Sall of Senegal, on the Summit on Positive Masculinity. So that when we are talking about that, we're not talking not only about heads of state, but how do we plug into the system? In the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, we use a number of entry points. One, we have the youth, the creativity of youth. We need to engage the youth, who are the leaders of today, not the leaders of tomorrow. Secondly, since in Kenya, instead of mayors, you have governors. So we need to engage the go-to person who's the governor in the community. Because with all due respect to the minister is not the first go-to person. The governor is the first go-to person. So that we engage partnerships with the governors of Kenya. And also education. How do we improve the quality of higher education? We've got 100 universities in the United States, which will engage in partnerships with universities across Kenya, as we have done in other countries. And then the final point in terms of entry point is that we need to try harder to project the islands of hope coming from Africa. From where I sit in New York, when I see stories about Kenya, it's not something that will always make me feel jump of joy. Everything goes wrong, but there are many, many islands of hope that together that we can bring out, because nobody wants to give their resources into a bottomless pit. And things are making a difference. And that's why I'm so happy to be with you here to have this conversation.
You know, there are conversations that have been had on this matter of gender-based violence, matters regarding discrimination based on gender, inequalities based on gender. If I were to ask what it is that your unique contribution is, because it is a topic that is dear to many people's hearts, the UN itself even created UN Women. I mean, there are units that focus on this. So what is your unique niche?
Yes. That's a very good and a very important question. We have been the organization which has come in and said, just like when you deal with culture, you know, when you have Kenyan music, I may not speak any of the languages in Kenya, but the music speaks to me at the core of myself. And then the same thing with sport. So we are one of the few, if not the only organization in the sea of everything addressing gender-based violence and discrimination. We're using the convening powers of sport and culture in order to address this issue. Because you need to grab the attention of the public in order to make sure that this moves forward. And what better way of grabbing the attention of the public when during the World Cup, which is being held in Qatar right now, FIFA, the United Nations, are convened by the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network and saying that while we're having this, let us also focus on something which is a violation of human rights against women. And a violation of human rights against women is a violation of human rights against men and everybody else.
Okay. Now, from your perspective, when you set in motion the processes that you hope to achieve, the goals that you have purposed, what would success look like?
First of all, the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network works very closely with a number of organizations on the ground. I arrived here on Friday, and my first meeting was with Nairobi-based civil society organizations, which are plugged into the system. So we had on a Saturday, and I'm most grateful to them, because some of these NGOs have got a hard time even to move around in terms of financial situation and so on. But, we had a lot of them come and tell us, and I was in a listening mood for them to tell us which way we can deal with gender-based violence in Kenya, so that being plugged in the system regarding civil society organizations, consulting, we have a memorandum of understanding with a number of organizations, starting with UN Women, UN Development Program, UNFPA, so that they are on the ground, they're trusted advisors of Kenya and its own people, so that we go by what they also have. And then we pick it up from there. So that it's something which is our purpose, is to use the convening powers of sports and culture in order to strengthen and accelerate the process of addressing gender-based violence in Africa and in the diaspora.
I've always looked at this and said, there's a lot here that requires mind, culture shift, whereby there has been the general acceptance of some of these behaviors. Unfortunately, where a lot of the violence takes place is not in the public arena. When a young girl or a woman is abused in whatever level, the glaring eye of the public is not there. The perpetrators of this usually, again, are not in the public. They may not change, but those upcoming could change certain beliefs that they have. How will this be tackled? They're not on the world stage. They're not in the public. How does that change come about?
Let me give you a quick example. For 10 years, I was special assistant to the then executive director of UNICEF. And you had 10,000 African children who were dying every day from preventable causes. So that we started on something which we called a low-hanging fruit, which was to run immunization campaigns that will reach up the level of immunization of the children of Africa. And then we went into more intractable issues such as fighting malnutrition and issues of that nature. So for us, the Red Card campaign is an entry point in order to make sure that special attention is paid to this issue. And once that's done, then we go back to some of the intractable issues that you just mentioned. For instance, we need to go back to the family level to have a sea change, to have a mind change in our own cultures. When some of us who have children, when the children come home, the boys tend to throw their bags and then go out and play games, football and so on, whereas the girls are kept at home in order to help the mother and things like that. We need to have an educational level that can change the mindset. But that is a long-term process that needs to be addressed. I'm not of those who says that violence against women has been with us since the dawn of humanity, therefore you cannot do anything about it. That is not something which is acceptable. But we need to start somewhere in order to accelerate the process and then raise the bar level, because the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, when it was addressed in 1948, was only a piece of paper. Then we say any country which is below that kind of level should be denounced internationally.
Dr. Diallo, would you say, because you've given us the statistics, 1 in every 3 women globally has gone through some form of sexual or physical abuse, is there awareness that there is abuse? Is there awareness about gender-based violence among men and women across the globe?
There is awareness, but it needs to be increased because it has been exacerbated. Violence against women and girls has been exacerbated recently by two factors. The first factor is the impact of COVID-19. When confinement happened, when men were obliged to stay home, in my own country of origin, many of the young men have got to go out in the morning to seek money in order to provide to the family for their daily consumption. And then confinement says you have to stay at home. So you can imagine that COVID-19 exacerbated violence against women and girls. And then secondly, when you have the war in Ukraine, that has exacerbated the price of economic level, so that poverty levels have gone up internationally. So when there is poverty, experience has shown data-wise that there is an increase of violence. So that when you have the combination of COVID-19 and also poverty levels, that has increased it tremendously. So that it would be now a matter of seeing how this could be really dealt with, because when women are subjected to violence, then it means not only in terms of physical, but also health-wise, mental health, depression and otherwise, and even low birth rates for their children.
So then, if people are aware of gender-based violence, they know that there is gender-based violence and these are the forms of gender-based violence, and then we still continue perpetrating the gender-based violence, are you then saying that people do it knowingly and willingly?
Well, it's something which is ingrained in society that your listeners would know more about than I would. For instance, it's just male masculinity, the way some boys have been brought up sometimes. Sometimes in certain societies it could be due to excessive use of drugs or alcohol or other means. So there are all sorts of factors. But what we also try to force on is there should be very stiff national legislations. In these 16 days of mobilization, Senegal, and I'm sure that the same thing will be happening in other countries, I'm just giving Senegal because I just flew in from there, from New York, has given an equivalent of an 800 number, which is very unusual, whereby people can call in confidence and be helped in terms of denouncing gender-based violence. So that at the end of the day, what we need to do is to make sure that each and every one of us makes it a matter at our level to denounce and to make sure that our neighbor who's really engaged in violence against women and girls is also brought to the fore. Because it's something that in families tend to keep it hush-hush. Even sometimes when the woman wants to go and complain in front of the police and so on, negotiations are done in such a way that they say, no, just leave it because this will bring shame to the family.
So are you saying that there should be more forceful implementation of policies and legislation against gender-based violence?
The legal system should be reinforced. And that work is being done under the oversight of UN Women, among other organizations.
To what extent? Because like you said, it's happening in communities, in households, right? There are laws. Countries have come up with laws that will deal with one form or the other of gender-based violence. But it clearly is not happening enough. So what more would you like to see happen, directly, as an organization?
As an organization, we have a collection of data regarding how countries are addressing gender-based violence. And in that connection, we choose a number of countries on which we put a positive spotlight in order to engage others. And that's why Kenya, for instance, in spite of all the challenges that we have been talking about, Kenya is a light, an island of hope in that sense, because there are lots of efforts at the community level that are being made that could be really documented and shared with others, so that at the end of the day, we want to choose 5 or 6 countries that will be the equivalent of champions, Pan-African champions, for addressing gender-based violence. And in that convention, issues become important because important people are seen to be paying attention to them. So that President Ruto, we hope that when we organize a side event at the margins of the African Union Summit in February next in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, our intention is to make sure that we showcase the example of Kenya as a country that can be really followed in terms of trying to really frontally deal with the issue of violence against women and girls. And in the first quarter of 2023, the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, in consultation with the United Nations, in consultation with the government of Kenya, will launch a national launch of the Red Card campaign here in Kenya. That will be the start of a 12-month of mobilization. Because when you have a launch, the problem is that it should not just be a launch. So that we have a 12-month period whereby we bring in the other partners that I had mentioned. We will bring in mayors that will have sister city relations with governors. We will bring in universities, as I mentioned. We will bring in the youth and so on and so forth. So that during 12 months, you will have the UN, you will have civil society organizations, and you will have government that would have accelerated the process.
Dr. Diallo, you should have come for a bit longer, but thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Jibril Diallo is the president and CEO of the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network, Inc., ARDN, based in New York. We've been talking about the Red Card campaign, implementing policies against gender-based violence as we commemorate 16 days of activism against GBV. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Of course, join us again tomorrow morning, 6 to 10. It's now 10 o'clock.